That's it. Sorry, right, start again. Dogs now. Hi, everybody. We're back today. We're back with a action-packed cast. We have on this hangout our Patricia, we have Josh X, we have James, we have David Giamita, and we have Charlie Freak TV. And today we've come for part 3, the conclusion of Crucifixion. Charlie.
Hi, Karen. Hi, everyone. Hi, Patricia. This is a very special show for me. I really enjoy this story because I think it truly does represent the highest of high, the holiest of holies. And to be able to do it, Karen, with you and Patricia, and then the hosts of guests, David, James, Josh. Wow. As I was saying just before we started, that to me, this is real family. This is where Colleen and I have felt the deepest connections. And we regard all of you as part of our family, because first and foremost, you're all about the truth. And that's what we care about. We're not interested in subscribers or followers or bits and pieces in our own little niche and dollars and cents and all the rest of it. We're caretakers of God's creation, and we're very happy to do so. And to find this wonderful group is pie in the sky.
Yeah, Charlie,
We'll talk
Charlie,
about
very
decoding
excited.
that.
Before we start then, should we just have a little hello from everybody and then Charlie, you start? So
I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Josh, do you want to go first? Because I think your microphone's off. Josh?
Yep. Hello.
Hello, my darling.
Hi. Good day to everybody. Good evening. Sending lots of love and light from where I am currently in England. I hope everybody's doing the best that they can do to their ability, because the abilities that we have are all individual. So I just want to send lots of love to everybody on the panel. It's a pleasure to be here, and let's just talk about some serious gnosis and bring forth some synchronization for people to synchronize with.
Thank you, my darling. Patricia?
Yeah.
Willow?
Sorry. Oh, that just came over me. Yes. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. And I can't wait to hear this conversation. So, crack on.
Bless your cotton socks.
Love you all, by the way. I'll say it quickly now while I get you.
Thank you, my darling. James?
Well, I'm going to have to say greetings, aren't I? And it's wonderful to be here with you all. I'm looking forward to this. So over to next guest.
Hey, David.
Hello there, good evening, Famalan, scribes, scholars, initiates, and sovereigns, dare I say it. I'm a Jew in the place that shall not be named at 10ish, so I'm going to be like Josh, not about an hour and a half, and I'll maybe excuse myself if we're going on a bit further. And I'd like to bring to you, I found 2 more C's by accident. You know, I'm the sea hunter, the paparazzi, the sea of paper rats was my last. Oh, did you hear that, sister? That was a
yes,
beard
it's
microphone.
Josh. It's Josh.
Did you do that to ruin my C's? I'll start again. I found 2 C's by accident. I was in the place that shall not be named, but you can imagine where that might be. And seasonal, I'm on a seasonal department. The C's on AL. We had EL just mentioned then, and RE and so forth. But that was one C that just jumped at me at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then Seats, SEA, and then TNS, C's and seats. So there we go. Love to all. I'm the usual giddy self. I yield.
Oh, bless you, David. Charlie?
Okay, we're ready to go. So where we left was on this incredible journey. So we'll bring everyone up to speed. What we're talking about is the raising of the chrism oil. And this, from approximately the age of 12 onwards, is gifted to us by the man in the North Pole, whom we're literally going to be there shortly. We're going to be there and talk live with the man at the North Pole in just a sec here. Through his gifts, 13 times a year, once every moon. That's right. There are 13 months. A month is just a month with the extra O taken away. And you're told not to use your imagination. So 13 times a year, we are blessed with this gift. And this is the milk and the honey. This is Joseph and Mary. This is the masculine and the feminine. But more importantly, at the heart of syncretism and the torus field that is our reality, this is magnetism, Mary, and this is electricity, L, Joseph, the father. So the father and the mother are going to be fertilizing a seed from the solar plexus, the place of the sun. And if you note, Josh and I were talking about this last week. When you look at the journey of Jehoshua, or what is known in the Bible as Jesus Christ, he starts at the solar plexus and then he returns home. And if you look at that, he goes down first, as we decoded in the Robbie Roberts and the band song, The Weight. Take the load off Fanny and put the load on God, on his incredible shoulders. He went down to Nazareth. He was feeling about half past dead. He was just looking for a place that he could lay his head. He said, "Hey, mister, can you tell me, is there a place that a man might, find a bed?" He just grinned and shook his head. No, was all he said, because he was in a manger, of course. He's talking to a man who was running a manger. And so from the solar plexus down to the sacred place where the fertilization occurs, this is the psychophysical seed that is born once a month again in our solar plexus. Again, this isn't theories like modern science and NASA likes to tease us with. This is the truth. And 13 times a year, virtually at the same time, there is a psychophysical seed that's born in our solar plexus, and it drops down to Nazareth, the sacred place, the sacral plexus. That is the sacral plexus chakra. And there it meets the mother and the father, the milk and honey, all the way from Santa Claus at the North Pole. And they fertilize the psychophysical seed. And this gives birth to Jehoshua, or Jesus Christ, or more properly, Christ Jesus. And the Christos then is born, and the baby begins to rise and lives its 33 years, which of course just happens to mimic perfectly the 33 vertebrae of our spine. And like we were talking last week, what if you decode the word spine? You have the S wave at the beginning, so the sine wave. This is this is the story, by the way. You just need to know this, that the heart of everything is that S. And that's because to get back to where we fell from, which is the singularity of heaven, we have to rise up and create what's called heaven on earth, which is no longer a singularity as it was for us in the beginning. This is now going to be a duality, and this is going to be better than it was in heaven in the first place, because now it's heaven upon earth. This is two worlds. This is Tai Chi. This is the evergreen pine tree reaching its branches up to heaven while its roots firmly secured in the ground, and its balance in the perfect center. Two worlds balanced together perfectly in homeostasis as one. And that's this journey. And this is the S for the spine, the sine wave, which is the return of Mary, the Kundalini magnetic energy within us, which is everlasting life, and raising it up into heaven upon earth. And this is where we merge two worlds, and this is where we can live forever in the physical realm. So S for spine is the Kundalini, and then pine. Pine as in pine tree, the balance, homeostasis, which is the end goal, everlasting green pine tree. And of course, pineal gland. And you're going to find out very shortly what incredible role the pineal gland plays in all of this, and the dance, and then the marriage, and then everlasting life. So it's just an incredible story. So getting back to little baby Jesus, born in the solar plexus, falls down to Nazareth, and then the eucatastrophe occurs. So we get, instead of the V for the womb, we now change it to a U, eucatastrophe, where everything turns back in our favor. And you can see now the basis for the letter J. J is Jeheshua, is Jesus. This is the journey of Jesus, is the letter J. So he drops down to Nazareth, sacral plexus chakra. He's fertilized by the mother and the father, and then returns himself back up the 33 levels of the spine with the Ida and the Pingala, the twin serpents, forming the caduceus, as the mother and the father guiding him in his journey all the way back up to a very, very special place that we've been made to fear, but we should not fear. It's where we all have to go. And it might hurt a little bit, but we have to get there. So you can see this is the shape of the J. So once Jesus falls from the solar plexus to the sacral plexus, the eucatastrophe occurs, the letter U at the bottom of the J, and then the straight line up and to the right, up and to the right. Everything. And when they killed JFK in Dallas, they shot him back and to the left, back and to the left. But Jesus is going up and to the right, because that is the journey. That's our journey as well. This is all about human physiology. This is our story. Jeheshua is us. We are Christ Jesus. We are returning back home, and we can do this on our own, creating heaven upon earth. So this is incredible. So up Jesus goes, along with the mother and the father, the Eden, the Pingalis, the twin serpents of the caduceus, and gets all the way up to the blood-brain barrier. And this is where we stopped at the end of the first and second episodes. And now there's an issue. And the issue is that it is a solid barrier between the capstone of the vertebrae, which is Atlas, the 33rd vertebrae, strongest bone in the body, and then up to the mind, or the skull. And so we're literally, for Christ Jesus within the Bible, we're at a place called Golgotha. And there at Golgotha, Jesus goes up onto a mount, a rise known as Calvary, and there he is crucified. And for everyone to know, you may or may not be aware of this, but crucifixion does not mean to be nailed to a chunk of wood. This is not about somebody nailing you to a cross. Crucifixion is an ascension, is to be charged 1,000-fold, charged 1,000-fold. So within the body, in the 6 in-body chakras, there are 144 lotus petals. And how do we get to the chosen number of 144,000? The 144 lotus petals within the body are charged 1,000-fold to make 144,000. And this is what must happen to the literal figure of Christ Jesus, or the body, Jesus Christ within the Bible. And this must happen to us, which is the psychophysical seed, baby Jesus, who's now 33 years old, within us. He must be charged 1,000-fold to get past this. So this is really incredible, because we were just talking about the spine and decoding the serpent S for the pine tree. So how does Jesus make his way, both literally and metaphorically, up into the higher realm of consciousness, which is the human mind. How is this possible? It's made possible by this incredible nerve system called the pneumogastric nerve. And it's also known as the vagus nerve. And it's vagus because it's a vagabond. It sort of goes here, there, and everywhere. But the basis to the pneumogastric is pneumo, which is lungs, and gastric, which is stomach. And it goes all the way from its connective points, which are to the pineal and the pituitary gland, all the way down to your testicles, just as the Ida and the Pingala nerves do as well. So this is one heck of a journey. So when our psychophysical seed within us gets back up, if we haven't killed
Can I
it in the
say
first,
something?
you sure
I
can.
could just hit Josh. I can hear you moving around. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry, carry on. Yeah.
I think we got
Sorry,
it.
Josh. It's just it's going over the top of Charlie. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, so to be able to return this psychophysical seed within us across the blood-brain barrier, it needs to be charged 1,000-fold. There is a powerful, powerful charge that occurs, and this is done with the help of this pneumogastric nerve. Now, this is really important to understand. And for those of you who are listening to this today, just take a look at the icon or symbol for Josh. And you see Josh's symbol, which there's a magnetic field around the tree of life. And this essentially is the shape of the pneumogastric nerve. The pneumogastric nerve, as it goes down into the lungs, flowers out, and it looks like two halves of the tree. And in fact, what it looks like the left hemisphere of the brain, the cerebrum, and the right cerebrum, the right hemisphere of the brain. And then the trunk of this tree of life is the spine. And this isn't again theoretical. If you look at the human body, if you remove the chest plate and looked inside amongst all of the different veins and arteries and organs, this is exactly what you'll see. You will literally see the pneumogastric nerve that looks like a tree and the spine that acts as its trunk. So this is the tree of life within us. And by the way, this is, the same tree of life that holds the Akashic records as well. A book with a spine but no pages. So that's wonderful that Josh has that icon, because that'll help you. This is what we're looking at. And so this flowering tree, this nerve, the pneumogastric nerve, is what helps us, because it crosses over the blood-brain barrier. And when it does, it forms a cross on the right-hand side. So just to the right of Atlas, the pneumogastric nerve returns back into the spinal column at an opening in the brainstem known as the hypoglossal. And in it goes on the right-hand side and the hypoglossal. And from there, it takes this sacred chrism oil fluid within us, and it charges it ascends it up 1,000-fold, and it places it into the most incredible place. And this is what's known as the fourth ventricle of the brain. It's the only way that you can get into the third ventricle, the very seat of our soul, the center of our reality. It's the only way. And this is through the fourth ventricle. So if the spine is the path that is straight and narrow, and it absolutely is, then the fourth ventricle represents the eastern gate of the ancient city of Jerusalem. And this is known as the gate of the eye of the needle. And the entrance into the fourth ventricle is very, very, very small. It's like a little canal, tiny, tiny canal. Straight that crosses from the blood-brain barrier into the third ventricle of the human brain. And this is the eye of a needle. And of course, it's easier to get a camel in through the eye of a needle than it is a rich man into heaven. And this ancient saying was constructed on the basis of this literal reality. And what we're talking about here is that a camel to be able to get into the eastern gate of Jerusalem had to get down on its knees, because it is a real gate and it is very low. It has a low beam across it. So the camels had to get down upon their knees, and their riders had to remove their packs. They had to remove their load, take a load off Fanny. And so the camel is in the position of the penitent man, and only the penitent man may enter into the realm of God. Only the penitent man may know God. And this is exactly what they're talking about. And once again, this brilliant story is talking about human physiology. So when the camel kneels at the eastern gate of Jerusalem to get in through the gate that is straight and narrow, the eye of the needle, it is penitent before God. And a rich man would never consider giving up all of his acquisitions, because that's what defines him. To hell with God. I'm not giving up all of my money, my power, my fame. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my bank account. Look at my family. This has to be real. Has to be real. It's not. But they won't give it up, and they can't enter. And that's, by the way, why they hide everything from us, so that we don't know this and we won't enter either. And this is our childish reality. So this is what is happening. The pneumogastric, or the vagus nerve, allows the chrism oil to go through the eastern gate of Jerusalem, the eye of the needle. It goes into the fourth ventricle, this tiny little canal, and there the chrism oil journeys into the third ventricle, the brain, the very, very center of the human brain and the center of who we are. It's where our consciousness is. It's been called by many as the seat of the soul. This is where we exist, is in the very center of our brain, the third ventricle. Now, when the chrism oil enters, it first goes down and to the right into this most incredible chamber known as the hypothalamus. Again, a very real and important part of the human brain. And the hypothalamus forms essentially like a bed in a cave. And this is where the body of Christ symbolically within the Bible was placed to rest for 2.5 days. And this is where the chrism oil is deposited when it makes it all the way back up and through into the hypothalamus, and there it rests within us for 2.5 days. So it takes a half a day for this incredible journey of Santa Claus to furnish the milk and honey, the psychophysical seed, to meet it at the sacral plexus, and to return journey all the way up the spine, and then through the fourth ventricle into the third ventricle. And there, this magic potion of alchemy sits and rests for 2.5 days. And then, if we are in meditation, and if we are purely alkaline of body and mind, of thought, then the most holy of holies happens. The chrism oil charges the pineal gland. The pineal gland begins to illuminate within us. It turns a very, very bright golden, then white color. And then from the pineal gland, an electrical signal is sent to the stria pinealis. And the stria pinealis, which is a ganglion of nerves just above the pineal gland, is the stria pinealis means straight line from pineal. And this stria pinealis nerve runs in essentially a straight line from the pineal to the fornix. Now, this is where it gets spine tingling, magical, and just incredible. And by the way, if for those of you who have read The Lord of the Rings and you remember the very last few pages where Bilbo, Frodo, and Galadriel, and Elrond, and Gandalf were all boarding the white ship to take them across the sea to the Undying Lands, this is what Tolkien was writing about. This is what Professor Tolkien. So when he said at the beginning of the book, it's not an allegory, he was protecting himself and his family. Of course it is. Everything is an allegory. It's all an allegory.
Can I say something, Charlie?
You sure can.
It's like you've got to be a doctor as well.
You do, and because this is real science, this is real mathematics, and this is what people need to understand. The Bible isn't some bullshit book of history, his story. It's there are no literal figures running around the Holy Land 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 years ago in their sandals, with English names and white skin.
Can I just
Didn't
say,
happen.
Charlie, we've got
Yeah.
this amazing panel of people here. We know it's your, obviously you're talking about what crucifixion really means. But I just wondered at this point if anybody'd like to say anything to Charlie with what he's been saying. Josh?
I just like to, obviously he's hit the nail on the head there. This is something that's not really spoken about between most truth seekers, because most people are focusing on the negative rather than the positive and the things that we can do to better ourselves rather than to point things out through ego. This is what people need to hear. This is what people need to be focusing their time and energy on. And once people do this, the world will completely change in an instant. So yeah, these are the subjects that sort of we need to be speaking about. I'm not sure how people feel, in the audience about hearing things like this, but this is something deep within every single being here, and is the most important thing we can actually focus on. So yeah, thanks, brother Charlie.
Oh, thank you, Josh. James, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, if anybody's sort of listening to this, it becomes apparent where they've got this whole idea of point of singularity, because everything is flipped over. So people will often talk about who are the chosen, who's the 144,000, who is this Jesus figure, and they're looking for a singular being, and it's not. It's all of us. I've got a plan here that shows the brain in 4 parts. You've got your left and right, and it does match up with the astrology. But it won't make sense to anybody who's going to cling on to old belief systems and try and wrap it around that. You've got to go into this with a blank piece of paper and say, right, I know absolutely nothing, and start again and forget all the things we've been told. So,
Thank you, James.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that. David?
Okay then. Wow, I'm so excited. You lot are the best. You're fantastic. I have some mental notes. They may not come out in order, but bear with me. You'll get where I'm coming from. I'm going to start with you, sister. You said you need to be a doctor. It's like you need to be a doctor. And my brain went, Grey's Anatomy, atom, all is atom, atom, autonomy, atom, doctor. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say there. Again, the brain. Let's keep with doctor theory. Cerebrum. There we go. Is what Charlie mentioned about the brain. Then, and I've done a bit of research. I'd private chats with Brother B and done my own diligence. And Sarah and Abraham. Sarah Abraham, Cerebrum, Sarah Abraham, Abracadabra, Bar, Ab, and Abra in itself. Genius, yes, it's just madness. Santa Claus, and St. Nick's, tidings, pineal glands, Christmas trees, presents and stars and spines and pines. And you've got the Santa and the Claustrum. I'm mad, aren't I? I just love this. I could eat it. So I could eat all you up as well there. Setting me up like this and leaving me to pick up the comment. Santa and Claustrum. The Claustrum is what's in the brain then, part of the brain. It lives up there and it does magical things with the pineal. I can't quote, I can't remember. I know bits, but so you can fill in around that after I've finished my comments here. Discussions with disciples at this time of year, discharging and discussing with the disciples. We get a bill when we are expected to pay that bill, but often we find, I'm going law a bit now, I'm going to do what I do with this language and the Jesus story, if I may. I'm just going to go over and cross the bridge to bill and charge. Charging, you said, at 144 gives the lotus petal of 144,000. Yeah, I like that. I've read similar to the point of the DMT and harmonic resonance frequency vibration. The charge given to something that's dead. You charge a dead battery. You all know when your handset dies, how cut off and isolated and panicky you may feel from, oh no, the phone's gone, you know, and I might have to manage an hour or two. You got to charge it. We give charge to things that are dead batteries, dead entities, spirits. So summons them, get them in and charge them, watch them perform. I don't know if you know you're doing that or if you're construed as doing that. You're not doing that because we're always alive and charged, and man is here in himself. So back to life, back to reality. Big tune back in the day that I used to love, Soul to Soul, De La Soul. You know, you mentioned JFK and Dallas. Wow, you made me feel old then, Charlie. I do remember that, and thank you, brother. That just made me sit down when you said that. I went, oh, he's gone and done an old school link there, and I remember that. David, you're old. I'm coming to the end. You mentioned other stuff there, Charlie. I can't remember now, but I was going to mention the clean hands doctrine, because the story, as you've eloquently pointed out, and your interpretations and gnosis is there along with others and what we've got. I will say that not only is it, you said the crucifixion and what that meant there and what it does, a clean hands doctrine, Pontius Pilate, who couldn't find fault with JC, and he washed his hands of him and ordered him to be committed, allegedly, in this story, the world's greatest story there, and he washed his hands, Pontius Pilate, of Jesus, Zeus, Buddha, Thoth, Moses, and he is us, Jesus. And wrapping up finally then, equity is what we love. It's in that, it's written in the stars. We'd see there, it's spine tingling vibrations, and it aids the vigilant and not those who slumber on their rights. And then we look at the procession of the equinox and the productions that Santos and Josh and others have done across the time, and I've had a pleasure of looking at and seeing the progression of the something of March. The left hand 9 o'clock position, and then the 21st, is it March 21st, Ram, right, Ascension, yeah, and then March, Ram, backwards, right, equity, vigilant, not that sleep on their rights, and rights, you said the left and the right. In law, you have rights, they're to your, so wow, yes, it's, my brains are a magical place, thanks to you a lot, I yield.
Well, thanks, David. Sure.
love
Okay,
you, mate.
back over to me.
Oh, Josh, you want to say something?
No, I was just saying we love you, Dave. You have a crack on, my brother, Charlie. Go on, mate.
Okay, so thank you for all those wonderful comments, and we're really close to the end here, and then of course everyone will be able to. We'll just take this and decode all of it. It's because it's so incredible. But I'm really glad that you said that, Karen. And this is the thing. We were talking before about the group of us here we're not really interested in the number of followers or subscribers or anything like that. What we're here to do is tell you the whole truth. This is the holistic truth. As Josh was saying, this is the story of the stories, and this is the journey of the journeys that we must all focus upon, not 9/11. There is a powerful message, as James has told us about in 9/11, wake up. But it's this, wake up to what? It's to this. This is the truth within each of us. This is what's happening in you. And from the age of 12 onwards, this is happening within you 13 times a year. So for 50 some odd years times 13 times, you've got 650 opportunities to make heaven upon earth and to ascend at the right hand side of God and become in an eternal being in this physical realm. But if you're too busy watching the Wheel of Fortune, then you're going to go around the wheel and wheel and wheel of fortune again and again and again forever, because it's a materialistic wheel and you're going to get stuck to the material plane. That is a singularity, but that's the wrong singularity. We're never going to get back to our original place at the right-hand side of God in heaven as metaphysical beings. Once we tasted of the apple, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, we fell into this world of duality, as above, so below, ruled by our polarities, where everything is an exact opposite. of the other, to give us endless free will. It's a gift, but the purpose is this journey. So getting back to the story, here's where we are. So when the chrism oil miraculously awakes within the tomb that is covered by a rock that's sealed across it, and it's rolled back, and the signal is sent, it goes to the stria pinealis, again, just a very fine, tiny nerve ganglion, and it extends in essentially a straight line across to this device called the fornix. And the fornix is the most incredible thing. It looks like an eyebrow, and it's connected to the very roof of the third ventricle. And the third ventricle indeed does have a roof. The roof is called the velum interpositum. And again, going back to what Karen said about, boy, it sounds like you have to be a doctor to understand all of this. Yeah, you know, you have to understand, we are the creation of creations. All that exists is this perfect flat earth, protected by a firmament, regulated by the ether. And we
Hey,
are the
Charlie.
chosen. Yeah.
Sorry, Charlie, just with what David said about the word doctor, the tor. So that is you, isn't it?
Very, very much the bull. That's right. So the ram of March of Aries, and the bull of Taurus, and that of course is the double Taurus field. And this is our creation. This is what we exist within. This is it. So for those listening who maybe feel this is all going past them, what I'll be doing with this podcast is applying images to all of this, so that you'll be able to see in great detail what exactly is happening inside of you and where this is all happening, because this is all provable science. This is who you are. And so you have to take this seriously, and you have to get serious with your life. And this is the whole thing. By God creating all of this for us, it kind of says to you in a very, yeah, I get it kind of way, that we shouldn't be eating Pop-Tarts, that we shouldn't be, drinking cans of beer and scarfing down copious amounts of cheese Doritos and watching some mindless shit on the boob tube. We are the center of all creation. We are the miracle of miracles. We're the chosen ones. We're God's creation. We are magic. We are magical. You're all alchemical wizards. You shouldn't be afraid of these words, wizards. Well, that's, it's like in a fantasy story, and it could be good or bad. I don't know. It's kind of scary. You're magical. We're all magical. And we've been dumbed down to give up our magic, to give up our true duality of the higher mind and the physical body into just pigs. And I love pigs. So let me just say swine of the physical realm. And it's not who we are. So you do have to take this serious, and you do have to become your own version of a doctor, but that's a wizard. So it's just consider yourself. So get rid of the clothes that they tell you to wear and start buying some robes and, some really cool, comfortable fitting outfits, and, maybe start looking a little bit like Christ Jesus in the Bible. That would be pretty cool. So we have to change our entire mental and physical mindsets away from the lie to the truth. This is the truth. So the chrism oil activates the stria pinealis, this very fine nerve ganglion that goes exactly across in a straight line to the fornix. The fornix is attached to the roof of the third ventricle of the brain, the very center of our existence. Now, that roof is called the velum interpositum, and it is known everywhere in Gray's Medical Encyclopedia, in all the medical dictionaries, in all ancient spiritual texts. It's all referred to as the gray rain curtain, and it looks like that. It is a gray roof. It is a gray curtain, and this is everything. I hope I just do a great job explaining this to everyone so you can understand. When we live without raising the chrism oil, this is what they're talking about, living in a gray world where it just pisses down rain upon us. And all we can do is our best to try to stay afloat above all the water. When we ascend up, when we do this through our sacred sex and through the raising of the chrism oil, they're one and the same. The semen and the chrism oil are the two things that move within the spine, the CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid, or as I call the Christ sacred fluids. This is the semen and the chrism, and they work in tandem with each other so that we can remove the roof. So consider it this: our brains are meant to be a convertible. You're not meant to have a hard top, a hard shell. And the inside of the hard shell is gray. It's a gray rain curtain, and it's pissing down upon us with hell. And that's why we live on hell on earth. Hell on earth is a state of mind. Yep, it's your mind when the gray roof of your brain won't open. So when the stria pinealis sends this electrical signal from the pineal gland to the fornix rolls back. The fornix is attached to the velum interpositum, the roof of the third ventricle, only on one end. The other end of the fornix dangles down, and it is kind of shaped like an eyebrow. When this occurs, the fornix is activated, and the curved drooping portion of the fornix rolls up and to the right, rolls back up into the roof of the velum interpositum, and it opens the final chamber in this magical place, the third ventricle of our brain. And this final chamber, which is right underneath the corpus callosum, what most of you would know as the eyebrow to the eye in the sky image of Horus from the Egyptian mythology. It rolls, when the fornix opens, it opens up this final chamber. And this chamber is known as the chamber of the bridegroom. And it doesn't matter whether you're a male or a female, this is where Jacob went when he crossed the river by himself and wrestled his ego for a day in the Bible, Genesis 32:30. And Jacob met God face to face. This is where Jacob met God face to face. This is where I have met God face to face. This is where all of you are meant to meet God face to face. This is the chamber of the bridegroom. And this is where the alchemical marriage takes place. And this is where we pledge ourselves to the Father and the metaphysical realm of the Akashic records, where we know all things in all moments. And this is where we are gifted this ultimate goal, the journey of journeys, the ultimate prize, which is heaven upon earth. This is the merging of two worlds into one. And that's what we do. And this,
Hey, Charlie,
again, is
can anybody
not
chime
theoretical.
Can people chime in at that point when you've said that? Does anybody on the panel want to say anything?
One of the best visual ways of looking at this is the Chris Cornell song called "Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart." If you see yourself, your soul, as that rocket, if you don't find your way back to that broken heart, it's like the song says, here we go round again. There's one other bit I'd like to add. There's the study of God is known as theology, and the critical part of that is the T and the H, because there are two other sayings: know thyself, because thine is the kingdom. If you're giving away things to these false prophets, now that can be in the business terms making a profit, or it can be a doctor, anybody in a white coat. If you don't know yourself, then this is a thing that amazes me. I've seen this on American television where they will put up an advert and they'll actually scroll the side effects of some of these medications, and one of the side effects on some of them is actually death. And you think, well, surely that should be a wake-up call that
Oh, thanks, James. The doggy said something as well.
They're always very excited about this topic.
I was just kind of just sitting back, waiting, meditating to his wonderful words, waiting for them to be finished and then to jump in. So I'll just hold fire until it's completely finished, because
and Karen, that might be the best, because I'm so close to being finished here. Probably just 2 minutes and I'll be done.
Charlie. Just, you've got all these people here and you're saying very big things. Carry on.
Yep. No, and that's why I'm so excited about this show, because I'm excited for all of them to we'll break this all down. So this is it. When the fornix rolls back, this is the rock that's removed from the tomb where the body of Christ in the Bible was laid to rest for 2.5 days, as does the chrism oil within us in the hypothalamus. It lays at rest in the hypothalamus for 2.5 days. Then this magic occurs, and essentially this is where you see there are witnesses that see Christ descend up, hundreds see Christ send up into the sky, into heaven at the right-hand side of God. This is, again, very, very powerful, because it relates to our own experience, which I'm going to complete in just a sec here. So in the chamber of the bridegroom, we get married. And again, this is where we merge two worlds into one and have this heaven upon earth, which is greater than the singularity of heaven in the first place before we sinned and ate the apple and fell into a dualistic world of polarities. Now we're creating more by doing the journey of the letter J, which is Jehoshua, or Jesus within us. This is the journey. Now, the last part of the story that needs to be told, and this is where it gets really cool. And I will say this, that no one that I'm aware of, not anyone, has ever pieced all of this together until I think this moment. And this is so very important. In the Bible, if you remember, now there's a number of books from the supposed apostles that never made it into the New Testament. 2 such books are the Testament of Philip, right, a bloody nice English fellow wandering around the Holy Land 2,000 years ago. I'm Philip.
He's got a phi lip, my friend. It's a phi lip.
Yes, a phi. Oh. So Philip says, I've got a lot to say about Jesus. And, the thing about the book of Philip that's incredible, as with some of these other books that didn't make it in, they talk much more about the relationship between Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. It's been taken out of now remember, this is all just an allegory. It's all symbolic. But this story was taken out of the Bible very importantly, because this is the final piece of the puzzle. And I'm bubbling right now with the excitement to share this with you. So Mary Magdalene, of course, is tied to Mother Mary. Mother Mary is the virgin white, pure duality or polarity of the sacred feminine, Mother Earth. Mary Magdalene is a representation of the moon goddess Sin, who through emotions rules over our 5 physical senses in our left brain. So Mary Magdalene is also known as Scarlet the Harlot. And again, this is redshift and the left brain, where we are just consumed with lust, power, greed, and the material realm. So Mary Magdalene is the pure virgin Mother Mary, and she wants to return to a state of pureness. And you need to understand this is, while I'm saying this allegorically, this is very, very real within each of us. You need to take this seriously and listen carefully to what I say. This is real. Mary Magdalene is the S of the spine. Mary Magdalene is the sacred feminine that is shoved down beneath the sacral plexus. The sacral plexus chakra is the place of sex. It is sacred beyond all description. And she's beneath that. And the only thing that's beneath that is the Muladhara chakra. This is the base or the root chakra. And do you know where it's located? It's located where the anus is and where our reproductive organs is. And this is why, if you ask anyone who lives in a city today about their life, what will they tell you? It stinks. Or, my life is fucked. It's just fucked 7 ways over. I got no luck in my life and it stinks. And well, what do you think of other people? They're full of shit. So everything stinks. Everyone's full of shit and we're all fucked. This is because our essence, which is the Kundalini magnetic energy of the serpent within us, this is because she, that 50% aspect of all of us, male or female, it doesn't matter. We're 50-50. And she is trapped where she doesn't want to be. And this is Scarlet the Harlot. And this is why through the moon, the magnetic moon, she rules over what is closest to us, just above, which is the 5 fused vertebrae of our sacrum, which represent our 5 physical senses. And like fools, we run around this material plane trying to earn fake monopoly money so that we can accumulate worthless physical possessions that when we transition, don't go with us. You can't take it with you. So it's completely upside down. It's completely ridiculous. And so what we've done is we've turned the beautiful Mary Magdalene into a whore. Scarlet the Harlot. And she's pure and she's white and she's beautiful. And I love her and you should love her too. And what we need to do is to raise her up. And there's a gift for doing this, and it's called eternal life. And let me explain it to you. When we, remember how I said earlier that the chrism oil is only 1/2 of what flows within the spine, the column of the spine, which is the cerebral spinal fluid or the Christ sacred fluids. The other half is our semen. Not sperm, semen. And women have semen as well. This is not a male thing. It is a human being thing. And this is why we must practice sacred sex, or what I call, or Santos calls, unity consciousness sex, or some people know it as white tantric sex. I don't like to get into the whole tantric field because they've got so many different versions, all designed to confuse you. It's unity consciousness sex, and it's where you do not spill your seed, ever. The children, and I know that for some of you, Josh included, this may sound way out there. And I have a son, so I'm part of this as well. But the true, when you really read the source documents and you listen to the Essenes and the Gnostics and you listen to the message in detail, what we're being told is that we are never to spill our seed, because that is our essence. And that seed is what allows Christ to be crucified, to ascend 1,000-fold at Golgotha, at Calvary, at the blood-brain barrier through the pneumogastric nerve. When we do not allow the spasm of the orgasm to
Hello? Hello?
Spasm of the orgasm. It's gone.
He must have just had it.
Sorry. Oh, I was getting interested. He was just getting to the good parts.
Of course.
He's vanished into the ether.
It's crazy, isn't it? That
We'll wait for
happens.
him. Yeah.
Would you
It's
want to talk
perfect.
for a few minutes while he's coming back?
Yeah. Anybody want to kick off or?
Josh,
Can I
over to you.
just say something?
Go on.
That was a bit of an anticlimax, wasn't it?
Oh!
But you've got to climb to the max, and the max is the mother's X, and the X is the balance. So this is what we need to become, and this is why this is so important. And I'm glad
Maybe
this
he
is
did
being.
it on purpose. Because we were all like, ah, and then he's gone.
Mhm.
You can see where he's going, that not to spill the seed, I've heard that the devil collects it. Now, I'm not saying he does, I'm just saying in what Charlie's saying there. And look at the media, the Masonic TV, how they can't wait the youth to program the youth to have sex and to get out there at 14. And, what's going on with they haven't got a chance, really. When I was at school, it was council houses and babies at 15, 16, so you didn't have to get a job. Not everybody, but there was a system, and it was used, and he was getting onto a point there. I was enjoying that ride. I was thinking, yeah, it's everything's opposite, isn't it? We can't wait. Teenage after 12, 13. I was going to say the numbers 1 to 12. Take note, the zodiac, the months, and what 12 disciples and so forth, and then. Yeah, after 12, you got 13. It goes into the teens. I and Josh have talked about this. I don't know if you'll remember, Josh, but we went through some bits there. And when you said Philip, that was good. Philip. I've got an uncle Philip, and I was like, gosh, that was. I'll take that. I'm having it. Thank you, Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas. Maybe it was on about with Philip and that there. Terminator, doctor. When we're talking about doctor, and Brother James said something about you don't want your oars docked. Well, doctor, initiates of self, I introduce myself as sometimes, atom, autonomy, and doctor, order, you get an order, what was it going, O-A-R then, is it? Yes, come on, David. And you row, when you have got an oar, you are rowing, row backwards is war, R-O-W, W-O-R, so you're rowing and you're getting an order. You have a skull cap on that if you look into boats and rowing and who's at the front giving the commands. That was just good feedback. Just while we're waiting, I think he's back now, Charlie, so I think I'll shut up and let him carry on, yeah.
Hi, everyone. Can I tell you what happened?
Please.
Sure.
Okay. Nothing that I'm physically aware of, but metaphysically, I was silenced and in that moment. So someone is listening in and doesn't like this this conversation that we're having.
Mind you, it worked,
And,
Charlie. Charlie, it worked because we were all right there, and then you went just as you were talking about that very subject. We were all risen up, and then it was just at that point you've gone. So it actually worked in a way with what you were saying. All right, carry on. Is he gone again?
No, he has gone again. No, he hasn't.
Charlie?
He's still showing on the screen here.
I think he's gone.
No, he's just dropped off the screen now.
What's going on?
This is these presidential alerts people got on their cell phones in the States. It was basically saying, we know who you are and where you are, and there is a sub-level to all this technology that can be remotely accessed, because this was never given to us as a gift. It's just turned round that we've been able to use this as a gift, but that wasn't the original design of any of this. It was to spy.
We were informing them that. That's what I said about Hangouts. We informed them of how we have to be careful what we say. And Google is a military, quantum, 5G, AI, Sophia, Singularity, IO.net, the home of. So yeah, that's sad if he's gone.
Do you know something,
That's
David?
really
I
bad.
so agree with you. I so agree with
Eh?
you on YouTube, because
Yeah,
I was
go on.
I was looking at what the CEO said, and basically it sounded almost military given to us. But the really disgusting thing was they're only looking at us. They're not looking at any of the information they're given. So anybody of the politics, the media, anybody in big business can give the videos. They're not going to monitor and look at those and be independent. But I that was the word I thought afterwards. This is like military answer. No, sorry, carry on. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
No, I've
Hi,
finished with
guys.
the targeted.
Can you hear me?
Oh, it's back. Hey, targeted individuals. Well done. Hello, Charlie.
Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna quickly share that in 2 years of doing this has never happened. And here we are. We're talking about the one thing that no one has ever shared that I'm aware of together. And this happens. We have a secured connection, protected. So this is some fine needlework that someone is doing. But anyways, we shall rise above. I just said a powerful mantra, so I think we'll be okay. But if I can just quickly finish, this is what I want to say. When to be able, it's a process. This journey is not for the faint of heart. So this is why it happens at the age of 12, and that's why it happens 13 times a year. And it's why we have parents, elders before us who are supposed to teach us, not make us dumber and dumb us down further. They're supposed to rise us up. Everything is about Aries, arise, but that's not what is occurring. Everything that occurs within society is dragging us further down. And we don't learn about this stuff. We don't know about this stuff. And from a young age, without knowing anything about our sexual body, both physically and metaphysically, we ejaculate our brains out. And I'm here to tell you that's not what we're supposed to do ever. We can create children, but we don't create children through our semen. But that's a whole other podcast in itself if anyone is interested in the future. But the bottom line is we retain our sacred semen, male and female. And so you have to become the master of your domain. You have to become the master of your vessel. You have to become the master of you. And that means you control the most awesome force in the history of existence. I just did a podcast with Santos. It's a runaway train on both my site and Santos' site in terms of viewership, and it's called The Atomic Orgasm. This is where we were discussing this, that the whole subterfuge about atomic power, the lie, there are no nuclear weapons, there are no nuclear bombs. God does not create perfection and allow a couple of weird scientists to be able to destroy it for everybody else. There's no way for humanity to destroy. There's no way for us to even irreparably damage Mother Earth. She heals herself in every second. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just keep focusing on you and your ride, and Mother Earth and God, they know what to do. So there's none of this. But what they're doing with the atomic nuclear story about the inward, safe, clean, eternal nuclear power in the power plants, that is sacred sex done right. That is not having the orgasm. That's why they created. They're giving you this truth about sacred sex and your semen in plain sight. The nuclear bomb that does not exist is just an allegory for when you ejaculate outwards. And when you ejaculate outwards, there is a massive explosion and all hell breaks loose. And then there is a death cloud or shroud that wraps itself around the earth that blocks you from the sun for 96 years. And the sun can't get in, and we all slowly die. And that's what's happening to us. When you ejaculate your essence out, you're causing a nuclear bomb. BOM will get Josh. Everyone, this is so great. I'm going to be finished in a second. Everyone can just chime in with their genius about all these words and what's going on. So we're not meant to do that. We harness the semen within us, male and female. Females have semen as well. You draw it, you control it. So the process is that you don't get to spasm and then try like the Dickens to hold it inside. As you feel the orgasm coming, as you feel the spasm coming, you pull out of your partner and you focus, you're doing your mantra, and you're focusing within on breathing up that semen, and you can feel it. I'm here, Colleen and I are going to be doing a whole series on this to help everyone understand this, and you can feel it going up your spine. And for the longest time, we felt it getting to our throat, which makes sense, blood-brain barrier. But we need to get it past that. We need to get it into the third eye chakra, which is the third ventricle of the brain. And now we've been able to do that. And what occurs then is just unbelievable. And what you have with your partner is a connection that cannot be forgotten, cannot be lost, cannot be usurped by anyone else. It's real power, and it's real beauty, and it's real perfection in that moment. And so this is how all of this ties in. So back in the Bible, gospel, I heard David bringing in the Gospel of Thomas. That's another great one. Thomas and Philip talking about the fact that Mary Magdalene was, in all intents and purposes, another disciple, and the 13th. Does that not make sense? If she's the moon, if she's the representation of the moon goddess, then she's number 13, 13 moons in a year, 13 cycles of the moon. Mary Magdalene is the 13th disciple. And she was the one that Jehoshua favored the most and often would kiss her on the lips. Now, again, this is allegorical, but it's important for you to understand why, because this is the dance. This is the sacred dance between us and God. And this is how we change our lives forever in a single instance that Josh was talking about. And this is releasing Mary Magdalene, who is pure and white and beautiful beyond description, releasing her from hell, which is down in our bowels, and raising her high to the highest high within us, which is the third ventricle of the brain. And we do that through this sacred sex. And this is what comes first. This white semen, that's why our semen is white. It's pure and it's a light. And as all light, it's light. That means it's not heavy. It rises up your spine. It cleans out and heals your chakras. It gets the wheels spinning in the right directions at the right speed, because all of your chakras move at a different speed. And only your semen knows how to get this, to get all of them going at the proper speeds. So the semen is what comes first. And then those 3 days, right, when the sun goes through, what are these 3 days? It's when the sun goes through, your sun sign goes through the moon passage. And so this is once again the Father El light penetrating the womb of the sacred feminine, the sun and the moon, family united. And when those 3 days that we have in every single moon, 13 times a year, when those 3 days, when our sun sign is going right through the passage of the moon, this is a sexual act. Everything in nature is a sexual act. Everything in creation is a sexual act. Sex is the biggest, most important thing there is. But it's sacred sex, not the 4-letter word sex that organized society has taught you about. This is real lovemaking. This is lovemaking that is a foursome, because it's not just you and your partner, it's Mary Magdalene and God. This is the physical and the metaphysical coming together in the most beautiful sacred union that is clearing the path for your chrism oil to rise all the way home through the eye of a needle, and activating the fornix and rolling back the gray rain curtain of this world. And it is just magic. And just to finish this, what I'm going to just quickly read here, this is one of the last sentences that Professor Tolkien wrote at the end of the Lord of the Rings. And this is where the ship that took Galadriel, Elrond, Bilbo, Frodo, the three keepers of the Elven Rings and the keepers of the One Ring across the vast ocean to the Undying Lands. And then he writes that one night Frodo heard sweet, beautiful music coming across the ocean water, and he noticed a pale light behind a gray rain curtain growing stronger. And then he looked again, and he saw the gray rain curtain of this world turn all to glass and silver, and it was rolled back, and a far green country opened before him under a swift sunrise. You need to understand, my friends, this is the most beautiful passage ever written. This is Professor Tolkien, who is a scientist. He's an alchemist, and he's telling you about the chrism oil. He's telling you about sacred sex.
Whoa,
He's
what was
telling
that?
you. Somebody just poured a liquid.
Yeah.
And he's telling you about sacred sex. He's telling you about the raising of the chrism oil, because this is what happens when the fornix rolls back, and this is what happens. A far green country opens before you, because the gray rain curtain of the roof of your third ventricle is rolled back, and no longer is your world dark and gray and filled with rain pissing down upon you. You are now arising in Aries. You are rising at the right hand side of God. This is what Jacob said and described, and this is where God came to Jacob and said, Jacob is too poor a name for you. I shall call you Israel. Okay, now everyone's heard way too much of my voice. Let's let everybody else just become blown away by this incredible story, and you start dissecting all of the incredible truth that's in here, my friends.
Can I just say that maybe Josh and David, because they can't stay the longest at the moment. Go on, Josh or David.
I was just going to say Merry Christmas. Thank you for that very much. Brother David, is there anything you would like to say right now?
You must have more than that, Josh. Come on. You must have
No,
more. I'll go if you want.
You go, mate. Obviously this is just such a vast subject. I think just go first, my brother. You just go first. You have a
bless you. Grazia. Fornix, he said. Fornix, 4X, trading. That made me think Phoenix, Rise of the Phoenix. Yes. iPhone have got a Phoenix phone out at the minute. Or synchronicity there. iPhone, the Tree of Knowledge, Tree of Life, Tree of Knowledge. Let's look at that. Phoenix, iPhone, not advertising, but it's tied in with serious, iconic retribution on your soul. And the Apple, on the Apple Mac, had a bite out of it. We'll go old school again. Who remembers them fine machines? Yeah, it had a bite out of it. I didn't recognize at the time that symbology of the the iMac business there, and the knowledge, from that computer system, digital, albeit wow. That's from Fornix. I don't know how. Aries, diction, Aries, and lots of things with Aries in them, but I'll just leave that. That was a mental note there. I'm just going mental here. When you jumped in before, Charlie, you disappeared the second time. I was touching upon perhaps it was the go spell of Tomath that you may have been linking with Philip. That was brilliant, Josh. Philip, I was just saying that initiates of self, Philip. After your Thomas and the Gospels there and the books left out of the notice, or Doctor, somebody said about it, James, it said about Oz, being docked. And if you row and you have orders and oars, OAR, and then an order and a skull cap and so forth there, that was brilliant. But I've got something interesting that's here then, Josh, James, if you just bear with. Master of the domain, you said something, we're going to have a nuclear vision on my private domain that I'm the master of. Master, though, mast, I'm not sure. Boats have masts, don't they? ER is flipped around, we know. So, yeah, we'll just loosely speak at ease here. And Santa Claustrum, it was the Santa Cristina, Charlie, if you've not heard or been to the fine island of Sardegna or Sardinia. I have some blood over there. I've been to various parts of it, and over there, this is to do with the sun and the moon. And he said about the sun and the cycles and the times. Santa Cristina, there's an excellent documentary on Tube that you can find about this holy well, and they are, if I remember right, don't quote me, but neuralgic. It's something like neuralgic village that's there. New magic, neuralgic, yeah, it's a high-tech, okay, village in Sardinia, ancient, and it has a well there. In that well, it's carved from not megalithic rock, but megalithic blocks that are made from rocks made of lava, very hard, impervious, extremely difficult to work with, let alone carve and put into the ground and fill with water, so man can worship the moon. The moon, when it stays at that special time for 3 days thereabouts in the sky, it is reflected upon the pool water of this magnificent magma carved. God knows how and why. And, you know, these things just perplex me. Italianos have got other things over there like towers. There's about 800 left of these towers built with no mortar. I won't go into that, but the sun, it stops roughly 3 days. Also, you know, it halts in its position in the sky. It doesn't stop, everybody, okay? That's not a stop as in it's, oh my goodness, it's like an aeroplane stopping in flight. No, it's the positioning is there with the moon, similar to the you know, you can get the deeper knowledge and gnosis on that with that technology and the theory. So I concur to what man's saying there. This is all very relevant, and yeah, I've got bits that I can tie in with and that you're helping me tie back in with. So I'm going to yield there and say, James, Josh, over to you, brothers.
Cool. Thank you, Dave. That was lovely. Yeah, I just remember you said a second ago about these megalithic structures. When I kind of really delved deep into, let's say, the mother, and you just start being perceptive and really taking those intricate lessons from her, you'll see that these megalithic structures are actually, well, these big stones are tree sections. As over time they break down, but you'll also see that trees petrify and they can be carved in a wood form, and over centuries and many years they can petrify. So those ancient mysteries that we've been led to believe were so difficult, I think they were a lot easier than we've been led to believe. It's just the path that's led us astray, so we can focus on something that we haven't got the technology of. And this is why it's so important to focus on the technology that we do have, and everybody has it inside their being. And it's the most comprehensive, the most spectacular electromagnetic device ever known to anybody. And we have not got the manual. So this is why podcasts like this are very important for us to spread the gnosis, because there isn't much gnosis on this around the Western world. And what Brother Charlie's doing right now is something that I'm going to jump on with, because I think this is the gnosis.
I like that. Well done.
This is the gnosis that needs to be spread. You know, if people haven't found out the way that they should be eating and living, etc., then, you know, we'll start off by speaking this way to allow people to catch up very fast. But it is a man and a woman's journey. And this is the only journey that every man has in this existence. Everybody can be a personality, a persona, take on an actor, character, and be whom they wish to be in this experience. But true mastery, which is the mother's star, the star of the mother, like a gangster is the star of the gang, is about this self-mastery and bringing balance, which is the V, the number of the feminine, or the master number 22. This is so important for everybody to comprehend. There is nothing else in this existence that we have purpose for is to create this within ourselves. I don't know how long I've got. Should I keep talking for a bit? Anybody else want to jump in?
Can I just, I don't want to be rude, but before I forget then, this is critical then with what you're saying there with Charlie's and the work that's ahead. All I'll add echo to is I can cross-examine this with what we're doing with law and the claims on the legal person. God is not a respecter of person. We've highlighted the KJV 1611 Handbook to Equity, and how that's guided with the titles and property and rights. And it's key that I say then on behalf of my, 10, 15 years of self, discovery and comparison, that we can now confidently on this landmass, formerly known as the United Kingdom, and step out onto the dry land, and we can jump ship. I like the way you salvaged that, Josh. That was commendable. We're all at ease, soldiers. But we're going to jump off the ship onto the dry land and say, these legal claims, sanctioning, times of the year where the Salvation Army are putting out adverts going, oh yeah, we're going to help, we're going to do this. And these, I don't know if they help everybody or if it's just white homeless on the street, if it's a collective family helping them. I'm not trying to be horrible, but I'm aware of, things that go off. And these claims that are made that sanction us and leave us on the street with the 2019, this technology that you're talking about here, and then what actually happens in real life. Not to be disrespectful to you and say this with love, but I've had emails saying, David, I told a judge I was sovereign, it did nothing for me. I'm like, well, it won't do. That's just, it's so much of knowing Jesus and the chrism and the Christos again in life. We need to know how to use this knowledge, the gnosis. So there are situations that we can help with, you, health and wealth and the gnosis and the spirituality and the vibration. And I can put out that we've got a pathway to the land of milk and honey, from the desperation and the misery and the heartache and the sanctioning and the homelessness and the deprivation and the legal claims upon, even if assets are going to be taken. And do you know what? We found it through these books, the Old Testament, the New Testament, looking at the angry God in the Old Testament and the threats and so forth there, the New Testament and the Justinian era and what's happened, and then leading up to the KJV. And you know what? I did say this before, we're going to rediscover this, which is what Charlie and you have got here. So fantastic to us all. I'd just like to say kudos to one and all on the panel. I yield.
David, thank you. James, do you want to say something?
Yeah, what I'm sort of taking from this, you've got this Magdalene, which is a magnet. What we're basically doing, we're sort of uniting a family. We're sort of linking between Mother Earth and this creator father, and we're pulling the family back together. And it's our magnetic energy that we send back up, is because it's down to the word, the sort of the ordinary sayings, like when you're talking about sex, about being turned on. When you put a light on, it's with a switch, and that's what we're doing. We're switching the polarity within inside ourselves. Where the things have all been sent downwards, we have to send them back up. And it's that was it the I forget the word now because I'm not very up on the internal words of the body, but that narrow canal, I mean, straight away you've got this resemblance to that's it. The birth canal is also a very narrow passage. So the dark side of, they've basically just, the way it seems to be, they've taken something that should be spiritual or mental and they flipped it and turned it into the physical. I mean, you've only got to look at the pornography industry as opposed to the sacred sex. One is all about self-gratification and the instant, which is, you'll be wanting more. It's not satisfying, whereas the sacred sex is the everlasting.
That's exactly right, James. Josh, before you have to go, because you've got only about another 10 minutes.
Yes.
Can you chime back in?
Yes, mate. I just got the board out. I don't know if anybody wants to see anything on there. I was just writing a few words down over the last few minutes when everybody was chatting. Do you want me to just do some language?
It's upside down. Turn it round the other way. Yeah.
Do-do. just making it a little bit more difficult. But Magdalene, you can see with the Magdalene, you have the mother G, which is the mother G. D is form of L in ether. So the mother G is form of L in ether. That's Magdalene. That's the code within her name broken down. Someone said, this is kind of just flowing some words. I mean, married, you see, it's just married. You've been married. Individuality is basically individuality, which is the di and the vi, and these are the two energy forms here that exist. The winner, the W inner. We have the Kundalini. I think I've said this one before, but it's the K that underlines the I, obviously I being our third eye. The bride and groom, you can see the two ride, which is the two energy forms within us, and it's the room of God, the G room, bride and groom. Obviously,
I've got a G room upstairs. Actually, how can you mention it? It's where I go and hide. Sorry.
We love you. But yes, does anybody want to interject? Has anybody got anything they want to try to see through the words or the verbs within this right now, or should we just keep talking about the chrism?
Well, you've got marriage, which is marriage, which has been twisted, and you've got this fake court system, which is maritime, maritime law. So they've moved Mary as area, which is space. So they've put Mary with time and space in this dimension. But people just don't hear the sounds. They focus on the spelling, and we're obviously we're only taught one meaning of each word. Anyway, I'll hand back over.
And as you said, meaning, I just want to make it very clear that, you know, we're not looking at the word correctly. Mathematics, mean means average. So the mean of these words, or the meaning of these words, is just the average perception of what people seem to think the word actually is. So the meaning is not necessarily the true vibration that is coming from this word. I choose my words carefully, like definitions, as we know what they are all for. They're for the definitions that can't understand and hear the vibrations from the true phonics. So we got to make sure we don't fall trap to meanings and realize just because a common belief is out there, it's not necessarily the truth. The truth will always set us free, as the ultimate truth will, and liberate oneself through the chrism. If we look at the word chrism itself, you see R-I-S-M. C is 3, R is 18, I is 9. I just want to say these three numbers here are very important. C is to see, representing sight. It's also a cup that you fill up, turn it sideways is you. This is the Graal, or the Grail, or the Trinity. The R represents 9 times 2, which is a full cycle. It's the 18th letter in the alphabet. You turn the 18 and the 1 this way, you'll see a full magnetic field. We have a sine wave. The 2 S's in our alphabet represented a full complete sine wave, which is an 8, which would be the H in our phonics. You'll see the H and 8 sound very similar, and they draw the same. So this S here is to see the full magnetic feminine sine wave of the mother. M represents the mother, which is the golden arches. Obviously, it's the middle, it's the center point, it's the 13th letter in the alphabet. Sorry, I ran too fast then. Yeah, so the golden arches is basically the center, just emanating out in all directions. So the word itself, chrism, represents you seeing the full magnetic feminine sine wave of the mother, which is how we, you know, raise to the next level of existence during this one. Any other words that we could just do together right now? Sorry.
Let me just quickly jump in with what you're saying there, Josh. Also with the M being the 13th letter, once again, just another one of these overwhelming coincidences that are constantly drawing in the number 13 with the sacred feminine, with Mary, and with Mary Magdalene. And And again, all of this is so perfectly designed that there are no mistakes in any of this. We are, and this is how you know that we're the flowering of the story. There was this story, and then we were created. We are tied perfectly to this story. And what you see in this story is that Mary has been made to fall. And this is why throughout the Bible, God and Jehoshua have such tolerance, love, and forgiveness for the harlots. And the harlots are the ones that are constantly stepping up and taking the greatest risks on behalf of the Father and of the Son. And that's because they're tied at the hip with one another. And it explains us in the fallen state to perfection. So again, our salvation is Mary. Mary is trapped down in the lowest part of our torso, the very lowest part of our torso. And yet Mary is supposed to fly. Mari is supposed to ascend, and we have her at the lowest part of our torso. And you're wondering why we can't fly. You wonder why we're so average and boring and predictable and dumbed down and dying at such young ages. Let me just finish with this last thing to remind everyone. This is so important. Remember, the waves of electricity are like the waves in an ocean. They're called temporal waves. And the temporal waves just oscillate and oscillate until there's a request made of them. When the request is made, they crest. And in that moment of cresting, you see a white light, right? Every wave that crests, you see the presence of Mary Magdalene, again, cresting upon the very height of the wave. And then that energy is expended, and then that electrical wave dies. That's why they're called temporal waves. They wait until such time that they can be refueled. That is the electrical reality. And with everything in God's creation, I know James understands this completely. Everything is a choice. So you don't have to choose the electrical life of the oscillating wave, and then you use up your energy and you die. There is an option. The option is magnetism. That's why it's not taught. That's why the most brilliant scientists can tell you almost nothing about magnetism at all, because they're not supposed to go there. You're not supposed to know this stuff because this is the truth. This is holistic, all is a tomb, atom connection to everything. So the M wave of Mary is magnetic, and these waves are called longitudinal waves or scalar waves or even Tesla waves, because Tesla devoted so much of his later life to this understanding. And by the way, the shape of the longitudinal magnetic wave is the exact shape of the sun as it journeys through the constellations in 1 year. In 1 solar year, if you take a photograph of the position of the sun every single day, 365 days within the year, and then you piece them together, in the sky, the sun is drawing for you a longitudinal wave. Now, what is that telling you? The sun is light, is L, is electricity, and the sun is doing a dance around the moon in a perfect yin-yang partnership through the constellations, and he's dancing his love for the moon, Mary, because he's taking the perfect shape and form of his lover, of his sacred feminine goddess. That's the shape, folks. That's the path that the sun takes. And guess what? Magnetic waves do not dissipate. They do not die. They are eternal. So guess what happens when you take all of this seriously? You become the wizard, you become Gandalf, you become the alchemist, and you raise the Kundalini magnetic S, Mary Magdalene, fallen down on hard times, and you raise her back up again. What's your gift? Your gift is eternal love with your partner and eternal life for you, the individual. This is all exact, precise science. None of this is theoretical. None of this is speculation. This is all what happens. And by the way, it's what everybody wrote about. That's why all of these ancient spiritual texts all sound the same, because they're all writing about this story. And it's encoded because you have to first do the work. If you take this incredible knowledge and then just run with it without changing your body into an alkaline temple of both the body and mind, you'll burn your circuits out. You got to do the work first. You're overhauling your circuitry so that you can allow this miracle inside of you. So what we're saying yes to is magnetism, is Mary. What we're saying no to is electricity. And there's these temporal lives. You get cancer at 50 and you die, and then around and around the wheel it goes. You don't have to. Sorry about that, guys, but it just really needed to be said.
Thank you, Charlie.
How long have you got, Josh? May I ask, Josh, time-wise, what you're saying?
About -2 minutes. I've probably got about, yeah.
Yeah. Go on then, crack on. I had something to go. Yeah, go on. For you.
No, it's all right. I was just going to wind it up and say thank you so much. I'm sorry that I got to go early today, but I have to, so I can't do much about it. But as you were speaking, it just a word vampire come to mind. And if you see the word vampire, you'll see the V represents 22, or the master number, the 11 combined, joined. 1 second, I'll be back in this sec.
Oh, there's little Neo. Should we just wait a second, see if he comes back?
Yeah, I think you will.
He's got to say hello, hasn't he? Oh.
Well, I don't want David to forget, because he's always got the. Okay, here he's just back.
Sorry, guys. Sorry about that.
That's all right, Josh.
I was just saying about the vampires and the way the movies portray the vampires to us, having that silver light within them and always attracted to the moon. But within the word vampire, you'll see the V amp, which is like the feminine charge, or the V is obviously the master's charge. And then you got the I, which is the feminine, R, which is the full magnetic, ether, E, and then S, sine wave. So, they have that super strength. They have that almost eternal life within them. And they don't have, let's call it oxidative stress within their body. They look young for a very long time. But that's just what the media has given everybody, through film. As an example, what is a true vampire is somebody that has the ability to do this. I just thought I'd just share that word for fun.
Beautiful.
Really.
Thank you, Josh. Josh, do you have to go now?
I do indeed. So have a lovely night, everybody. And I'm sorry that we didn't get much time, but next time we will.
Oh, love you, Josh. Thank you very much.
Love you, Josh. Thank you so much.
You'll take care.
Happy to meet you, Josh.
Nice one, brother. Take care. See you soon, guys.
Bye,
See you
Josh.
later. Ciao, Bella. See you later, brother. Much love.
Oh, brilliant. Well, David, do you want to say what you've got to say then, on the tip of your tongue?
Yeah, I've made some notes. It's all right. There's no panic. Hold the fire. Can I just say, we're going back. I've got about 3-4 things to go on here, if I may. But first of all, James, turning on the switch. Turn it on. I used to turn it on before the party and set the sonics and the phonics and the resonance and the boom box in my boom boom G room, and it was all negative and backwards and upside down. But what you said before, I commend that. That was you put me in a different place there, and you took me into some places. I just wanted to say, respect for that comment. I like your analogy and your cross-examination of the parallels and the physical and the ethereal, the academic and the spiritual there. That's bang on, brother. I fully enjoyed that, and I just want to say that first before I move on. We're talking about marriage. Mars is what I'm going to do, because we're into the planets now, and I've got my true north in the astrotheological zodiac area. And yeah, Mars, marriage, is what I'm going to end with. We mentioned temporal, just going back to Charlie now before Josh, and I also have looked at the temples. I'm addressing my temper, my energy, my chakras. I'm doing a bit of self-management. I'm going to bring to you some amazing news in the near future, all of you, about me and my body and my health and alkalinity and what I've been doing. But the Solomon's temple is what I wrote in my mind, and I've just made a note of. And temples themselves, temporal though, the etymological references I've got are like for Middle Eastern areas. It's borrowed from the French, if I remember rightly, and Latin, temporalis, tempus, and it's something to do with season. I said earlier in this hangout, wow, the synchronicity and the timings, season and time, opportunity, temporal, and this is going to lead into marriages because at a temple, and so I'm linking it up here with the comments, getting professional nearly. A comparative, superlative in English, most temporal grammar of or relating to time in general. Don't quote me, look at it yourselves, yeah, but it's something to do with time, which is interesting, or of limited time, all right, something like transient, passing, and not so much perpetual, and relating to the material world, physical, as opposed to the spiritual, and lasting a short time only. We'll not mention the bedroom area on what we've been on with here, but that's some of the things that I remember it being with. In civil or political, as distinguished from ecclesiastical, and with the unbonding of man and our Christ-like consciousness to get out of these realms, physical bondage, then these temples in your head, under the dome, so much there, Solomon's temple. In plural realms, because I'm a language freak, I remember anything temporal or secular. We talk about secular public laws and whatnot. Temporally, this is a real hard one for me with dyslexia and giddiness. Temporarily, you can look at that in itself. New Latin temporalis, I found temple with head or face, which comes back to the Solomon and the things there, all right. So just know that I've done my research on this autonomy, either of the bones on the side of the skull near the ears, and something to do with reptile scales on the side of the head. Okay, I need you to research this and check, but parietal and supralabial or something scales that the snake has behind the scales themselves. And then we're going to go to wrapping it up with the Mars and marriage then. If I may just, I'm going to need to look this up because I can't recite this one. I've got a page ready here on my phone because I've got a link somewhere that I've recently posted this. So this is why my ears pricked up when we started talking about this, because I have looked at marriage and Mars, and I've put this on our domain of educational realms, so I'll leave it there. And the etymology was from Middle English, meren, from Old English, merion, and it means, this is just going on the word M-A-R. What I do is look at the words themselves in the etymology, the root, the Latin, the English, and what they begin with, prefix, suffixes, adjectives, pronouns, a frontal, I've got a lot here going on. So when you look at the words, I'll just go mar for these reasons, and to disturb, confuse, scatter, squander, waste, obstruct, and you've got Proto-Germanic, to disturb or hinder, to annoy, disturb, neglect, and mar, marriage, comes into. I'll let you all go through that. I don't want you to hear my voice going on about every word, but mar, third person singular, simple present, and Mars presents participle, marrying, simple past, and past participle, marred. So it's interesting in itself, the marriage at the temple with the magneto, I would say, is the matter, the electro would be the space, and man, ourselves, our souls, as we are vibrating in this consciousness. Josh, Charlie, Patricia, Karen, James. Magneto is, I would say, is me, you, I, man itself, magneto. We've touched on this word, and magic, and the electro I would view as the space, the particles in the ether, and we turned it on, haven't we, James? I yield.
Well, that's just poetry. Listen to you, the way you just reel the words off like that. That's fantastic. But I was thinking magneto when you just said that. You've got magnetism. There's the net that you cast to the right hand side. On the end of it, you've got the O, which is the all, the whole, the complete. So yeah, we're all sort of connected with this for definite. You've also within the skeleton, within the hip bones, you've got that figure 8. So when that energy is sent downwards, it's stuck in an endless loop unless we can send it back up and free it. In some ways, you could look at this and say that this chrism is actually female rather than male. There's a duality aspect to this.
Right.
It's just so fascinating the way with the numerology and the words and everything out all comes together with all of this.
It totally does, James. It really does. And again, the key month every year is the new year, which is March, and March backwards is Ram, which is Aries. And the basis of March is Ma, M, magnetism, Ma, mother, Mar, Mari again, and everything like maritime law, it's of the ocean. Well, not really. It's of the Mari. Mari is Mary. It's of the mother. It's of the feminine. And so everywhere you turn with this, what we're being left with is this really profound understanding that it's about a man and a woman, and it's about what a man and a woman can do. And that's why these passages from Philip and Thomas and others are not in the New Testament, because they will simply not allow you. That's why I'm not surprised that twice, I've never had that happen where I've been, the internet connection's been cut off, but I'm not surprised, because they don't want anyone going near this sacred understanding between men and women and what is happening inside of our body. And remember, God is ever present in in his holy seat, which rests just above the third ventricle of the brain, just below the colostrum, right where the tube, the chimney, the foramen that leads into the third ventricle is the mercy seat. And that's where God spoke with everyone in the Bible. When Moses and others within the Bible spoke to God, they were speaking with him at the place of the burning bush and other allegories. But God is within and he's above. And Mary, his sacred mate, is trapped down below. And we're caught in between. We're doing nothing to help them get back together. Don't you want to see the ultimate love story, and in doing so, create your own ultimate love story? That's what this is all about. This is, like I said, when you come to fully understand the chrism oil and how it's tied to the semen, and you understand that the difference and the connection between Mary, the white, pure virgin mother, and then Mary Magdalene, it's just spine tingling. And it's a good word, spine tingling, because these signals are needing to go up and down the spine, and they create this perfect shape, which is the longitudinal or scalar wave, which is the path of the sun through the constellations within the year. I mean, it all ties into itself, to one another, all is a tomb. And it's all about this one story, which is our story, and that is getting the masculine and the feminine together, because this is the connecting of two worlds into one. Don't let electricity force you into a monolithic world of birth, life, and a young death, and pain and agony because you're acidic. Get alkaline, become an alchemist, and live forever figuring out and then teaching these sacred truths.
Do you know what, though? Isn't it strange that you've almost got to, like, I was just writing down, we were doing like doctors, and I thought, let's write down atum is matter.
It sure is.
Yeah. So basically, it's almost like our language has been written the wrong way round on all these words.
James knows that very, very well.
Well, they've basically changed atom into a tomb. You raised a very critical word which crops up a lot. The French word for sea is mer. So that's why you have a merci. It's using a French and an English for the same word. And that crops up. I mean, you've got merchant bankers, mercantile credit. It's encapsulated in so many things, all these little clues that can be unraveled from all these words.
Yeah, their words, right? Like their words and their legalese, words of control. And again, you know, there isn't this interesting how they know all this stuff, and because they're not prepared to be penitent and humble and enter into the eastern gate of Jerusalem, the eye of the needle, because they're not prepared to do that, they do two things. One, they prevent us from getting our hands on this information and for us to be able to enter into that sanctified gate. And then two, they use all of the terms, all of the allegories, metaphors of what really is happening, and they use them as the basis to their language and their system of control. So they're ruling over us with the very words and language that relates to our salvation. And then when we awake to this, like most truthers, when they see a rock star doing the third eye symbol or 666 symbol or a pyramid revealing the all-seeing eye symbol, these are all horrible things, right? These are all just absolute. The pyramid must be bad. The all-seeing eye must be bad. 666 must be bad, and they're not. They're not. They're the basis of us, and they're the basis of our reality. But we fear what we don't understand, and that's what they're doing, hiding it from us, and then using it as the words of our own enslavement.
Well, every number you can apply a good and a bad thing to. It comes down really like that Einstein equation of everything has an equal and opposite. And when you mention about shape-shifting, everybody thinks about reptilians and the dark side. I don't think there might be a light side version of that as well, because there's always duality to all this. But one thing I will say, and I do hope there are the opposition listening, because what they have missed is shown in every Dracula film. The servants of the Prince of Darkness are never saved once their use is expended. Yep. He will never come back and save them, and I think they need to think on about that. And I know probably a lot of them are actually trapped and can't get out of it. Seeing the way some of these musicians sort of try and speak out, it's almost like they've got in too deep, and they're trying desperately to get a message out without actually getting themselves murdered as well.
I agree, James.
Hello?
Hey, you back, David?
Am I? Okay. There we go. Indy's been knocked off, and every time I tried to log back in, it said the app was closing and had crashing. So I'm using the backup. The backup one's on. See how long it lasts. It wouldn't let me on at first, and then I came on and it went off. So weird things are happening, Charlie. Eh? Yes, indeed.
Well, I'm glad you're back.
Sorry, I'm here. Sorry about that.
This is such a strange place to be, I think. All the things I'm seeing in this footage that they've given us. And it's just, but it's only the history they want to give us. But it's all crazy, all this. It's like we're doing the complete opposite. Our language is back to front. We're saying spells and we don't even know what we're saying. Let alone you've got to get to that right place, the right place on the right.
Where everything is all right. I mean, they're giving you the answer in plain sight constantly. You listen to virtually, almost every pop song. They're all talking about that it'll be all right or it's all right. They're saying in plain sight the answer. The answer is all right. You have to go to the right. And that is a metaphor for the right hemisphere of your brain. If you stay in the left, you are going to be a minion for your ego, and the ego works for them. And like James said, they don't take care of the people that help them. They can't stand them. They really can't stand these people that they're using to do all of these evil things. And that's where that veneer of the great evil exists. It isn't with them, because they live in absolute fear of God. Because remember, these are the people that metaphorically attempted to build the Tower of Babel and take heaven by force. So they're the ones that absolutely know through the burnt hand, which teaches best, that you can't take heaven by force. That's why they create this buffer level of human beings, these fallen beings that so desperately want fame and fortune and will give anything to get it. That's what James is describing. And they can't stand the people that they use. And that's this veneer or layer around our reality that is so evil. It rests in these people like Tony Blair and the Royals and all the rest. And these are not special people at all. There's no special blood. There's blue blood or red blood. Blue blood are those people that still the heart rate, meditate, control their breathing, stay
Charlie, they're
on the right
actors.
side.
They're
That
just
they are.
actors in the
They,
game.
they are, and that's why I really encourage everyone to watch the podcast, the videos that you're doing on all of these various videos and older videos, pointing out how they're just freaking made up.
There
I have
is
to say, very quickly, sorry, James, and then you speak.
All right.
I actually didn't realise it was actually this bad. I kind of thought they'd probably be having a go at us quite regularly or through certain things. But to actually realise, like, or when they hold their phones up, they're never looking, they're never filming what's going on. And, like, how long's this really been going on? Like, and the 1800 footage looks the same. And it's like, oh, my goodness. It's horrible. Carry on, James.
Well, people really, they've got to face the dark side. There is a whole level of this beyond the human way of thinking. And what you've actually got, when you see on these things, like on Facebook, you'll see a picture from the 19th century of somebody who looks like Johnny Depp, and side by side with a picture of Johnny Depp as one example. What they're actually doing, they are transferring what is basically a parasite, and they're changing these human shells like we would change clothes, obviously over a much longer period. So you will find, like Donald Trump, people have pointed out, oh, it looks like General Patton. It's a false immortality, but it takes an awful lot of soul energy. I dread to think how many, and obviously it's the innocent, the pure, the young babies, which is what they want more. I mean, a lot of these things people think are recent, like photoshopping and child trafficking being two of the big ones. I mean, it was called foundlings and orphan trains. Child trafficking has been going on for a long, long time, and it's ironic almost that this internet and these electrics are actually, we've managed to turn this to advantage and at least try and get a message out there so other people can see things. So it is all going well, and spoiler alert, the bad side do actually lose this time. So I'll hand over to somebody else now.
David, did you want to chime in? Because I'm not sure how much longer you've got it.
David?
Sorry, I'm speaking.
Yes.
I'm unmuted. Hello? Is it on now?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, brilliant. I'm going to get off 8:30. I've just had a quick chat with Anne-Marie when I got booted off then, and yeah, I'll be all right till 8:30, and then I'm going to kick back and get ready for the dark times. Does anybody like the singer? Oh, Florence and the Machine, The Dark Days Are Over. James, you just brought that to me. That's such a tune. I do like that lady. I've seen her perform once live. Music, vibration, resonance. The dark days are over. Let's have that as the mantra as I bring these comments to you then. Well, since I've rejoined, oh wow, tonight we're on fire. I don't know what's going on with the the realm and words and synchronicity, chronicity in itself, and syncretism, to say Brother Beza, chronos. Has anybody on the panel recall seeing in the media celebrities, monarchies, cloth clergy, chaplains, whatever, with a bruised left eye? Yeah, and you on about the right. Yes or no? Yeah, you see, you will have seen. I'll go Lisa Left Eye Lopez on Yo stateside for you to link that in. They're talking about the right eye, the right side, the right way to be. There's a right way. Oh, there's loads. Right good in Sheffield. We say it's right good, not left good. It's right good, like Patricia. I know you're not Sheffield, but I hope you're smiling there in the background. So you mentioned actors, Sister K, Special K there. You said it's like a game, actors. Well, let me bring to you Jew Man G. Non-playable character. I'm such a weirdo with what I remember and how I link this in. I don't know how it happens, but I'm being told to give you this. Jumanji. In that, if you've seen it, the board game, and they go into a digital computer game. Actually, it's not a board; it's a mixture of a board game and a computer game, because it's on a TV. It's interactive with a board, and it's got very astute characters handpicked, I think, in there. One of them is a big guy, and they go through this film. Yes, it's not the one with Robin Williams, actually. It's a remake then, is what I'm thinking now, because I'm thinking Robin Williams, but he's not in this one. But there's a bloke in this one that's a character, a male character, not a bloke. And he comes in this little cart, and he gives these, now the actors in the game, the characters, the icons and the avatars. Josh, we need you. He gives them instructions, and he gets asked questions by these characters, all right? Like I've done at the royal courts and the courts, high privy courts, and the answers that you get back from this character are only what he's programmed to give. So if you say to him something like, we need to get out of this game real quick, where's the way out? The non-playable character there will only give a pre-programmed response, which will be, I'll see you later, have a nice day. And they ask again, another question, and he'll say, I'll see you later, have a nice day. And they realize he's on a loop, an infinite 8, James. He's a non-playable character in the game. Now, I have met, let me tell you now, assure you, I've met too many of these lights off, non-conscious, I call it, what would I call it now? You are conscious, you're not awake, you're either conscious of your actions and you vibrate at a resonant level.
Not spiritual for a start.
Yeah, that's right, my love. Yeah, it's just so that's it. Consciousness, and Jumanji has a non-playable character, and it's very interesting that setup and the ideology, not the ideology, but the theme of the game and the film and the plot there is what I'm looking for. So that explains that. And Jew, J-U, and then we'll split it with M-A-N and then J-I. And that will lead me with the J's up to Johnny Depp. Somebody mentioned Johnny Depp. That was you, Jay, I think, Brother Jay. That made my brain say pirates. Yeah. Pirates of the Caribbean, dead man's blood, chest. There's a scene in it where Depp comes off the boat, and it's really comical, and it's in satire, tongue-in-cheek, but the film starts, whichever one it is. I'm not a fan of them. Even Johnny Depp's quoted online saying, when he's been interviewed about films, he says to the interviewer, he goes, I don't know. He says, I don't watch my films. And the interviewer's like, I wasn't prepared for that. He was kind of like a minute silence, pregnant pause, and it gave birth to him saying, what do you mean you don't watch your own films? You're Johnny Depp. You make incredible films with, all these plots and characters, and you don't watch your own films. And he wouldn't answer why. So interesting in itself, but the X marks the spots for the treasure chest and all that's in there in itself. Another film depicting truth in plain sight, Charlie. A lot of the time they are telling us, yes, Yeah.
David, I was looking at some of the footage of the Tsar of Russia, right, before we came on the Hangout. And when you blow it in and look at it, that's the only thing I could describe it is it looks like the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Caesar, Nazarim. I like Tsar, Tsar, and then you got Zar because the silence of the T. So you got Tsar, SAR, subject access request, Tsar, Caesar, Tsar, Caesar, Caesar, Caesar. Yeah, you got Tsar, Turkish Tsars, Russian Tsars, and pirates. I'd like to see that, sister. I'm interested in your. I'd just like to say, pin everything. What you've been doing there with Brother Jay is it's quite an eye opener, and it's fantastic. Credit to you for that. That's different, and I've been watching bits when I've come home from the place that shall not be mentioned. And
It's crazy, isn't it?
wow, good on you. Yeah, what a find.
David's talking about the Victorian footage, but it's just slowing it down. They look like the ghosts in Pirate of the Caribbean. There's things about it that remind me of that film. I actually say it in my video that's not uploaded yet, but I say that. It's weird.
And just to do with that, when you are looking at these films and you are slowing them down and watching them, bear in mind that they are converted from old cine films that oxidize, and they will have irregularities when they've been digitized into the new formats and that. I'm not making excuses,
they did, David,
but
was just speed it up like they did with the NASA footage. That's all you got to do is just half speed it, and then they walk around like us.
Yeah. And I'm aware of frames per second because the universe is like a fractionalized, digitalized, holographic. Pixelated is the word I'm looking for. That's the word, pixelated. So when you are looking at oh my days, here we go. The film is on what? It's on a cellulose film. It's on a film strip. You watch the film and it plays out before your eyes. So you get that in a frame rate per second. And if you slow it down, as you've said, you see, let's take away the audio, it's a silent film, and you've just got the frames per second. And you see, after you put the frames in a forward linear motion, they go forwards. And if you watch it quick enough, it looks like a outside reality, on your TV. When you go outside, if you look with your eyes, we've got these HD definition, colourful eyes here in our skulls, then we are interpreting light, matter, the toroidal frequencies of which we are going to discover later on. I'll not go too deep into that. Reality is an illusion. So you have pixelated, time is pixelated, temporal, so it's all linked and weird. But with the old technology and your frame rate per second and those types of film and how it was filmed there, they didn't have 28, I do believe, at the time on that
they were only taking
strip.
what they said, and I'm not even sure whether really the footage is older and they're covering it up, pretending it's this year and this year, when actually they're giving us older footage. But it's all a cartoon, all of it.
Yeah, it's pixelated, and
I even found a video that was a little short video of where these people keep running everybody over and even drive up a house and into the clouds and over the moon and down through the clouds again. So this was done in 18 something. So they had to, doctor it to make it look like they were traveling up the house so they could do it. If that footage is from that time, then they could do it. They could change the videos.
Yeah, it's interesting. It really is. It's bringing things to mind. Well, I didn't think about cellular. Cellular. We have cells, and on the film strip, there's a cell there, and it's the way that it's done, and the frames per second, and holographic. And numbers and freak man. With the letters and whatnot, and how we link it up, and why words, things, objects are given what they are, and there's a clue there in all of the names, and as Josh is finding out, and we are with the research and discovery we're doing. So, and that what you're bringing is a totally separate, fraudulent, deceptive narrative of some kind of Tartarian cover-up for not just Tartarian, but an age and era, a reset of some kind. I'm going to yield over to you.
If I can jump back in for a sec, this takes us back full circle to what Josh said at the beginning, which is what we should be doing is focusing on the one thing that truly does exist. It's the only thing that's provable, and that's the moment. And Josh and I call it, and I'm sure James would agree, God's eternal moment, because God, the creator, all of this is happening in a single moment. And it is just the perception of these various events within the moment that are giving us, like David is explaining, some kind of collection of slides at a certain speed that then looks like it's passing as a time event. So therefore you get this illusory construct of a past and a future. And the only things that a past and a future do is they take you away from the moment. The only thing provable is the moment. And yet take a guess at, what figure percentage of the population ever lives in the moment. I'm sure it's less than 1%. People are constantly worried about the future because they're fixated on the past. And remember, the thing about this, most people are not cognizant or conscious in the moment. So therefore, when a moment occurs, and most of our moments out there underneath the gray rain curtain are full of shit or are, pouring rain, we don't have a very good actual understanding or understanding of what happened in the moment. We don't have
Hey,
a very strong
Charlie,
perception. So
Charlie,
we're doing all of this to ourselves, Karen, and we don't really even know what really happened in a specific moment. And yet that moment is determining all of our future because we won't let it go.
I'm not very good at this myself, but it's your today is your tomorrow, and you're worrying about yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the words. That's it.
Yep.
Short and sweet.
Yeah, it's so true, and that's what we have to do. And all of what they're doing is, and you're pointing all of this out, and like you were saying, when you're describing it, listening to you, you're saying, it's like it's mind numbing. That's right. All of this is designed to make us feel dirty and sick and weird because it's not the truth. Your eyes
I
are
don't think we were
telling you.
supposed to see it, Charlie. Some of this we weren't supposed to know or realise, but we're waking up too much.
Right. And some people like yourself who are very empathic are seeing it first and sharing it.
You've got out there, you've got the real big screen. We are all actors, so should we not act like the Tor, which is one of the bulls, and choose which part we want to play? David mentioned the word cells. Well, look how that has been used. You can sell out, which is you're turning yourself inside out if your cells are on the outside of your body rather than contained within. But when the cell actually splits, it is like the letter H, the 8th letter. And I take those two take the vertical line to be like the letter I. That's the vertical, it's not linear. When the cell splits, it's that bridging part breaks. Every time you breathe in, that breaks and it forms a new cell. We're actually bringing those two bits back together. It's the 11 making one. This is not obviously in the physical sense, and this is also what 9/11 was showing as well, the 2 into 1, and then leaving you with ground zero, because that's also what we've got to do. Not give a power to one side or the other, be captain of your own vessel, and also ground with Mother Nature, because you can't beat that feeling of being out in sunlight, and that in itself is empowering. It's charging us with energy, with that natural vitamin D. Anyway, I yield. And
Yeah, and everything that you're talking about just relates back to this central narrative about the masculine and the feminine, and that everything is sex. Everything in creation, every moment of creation is the sexual act, and it's always between the father and the mother. And when we do things like David was talking about, you were talking about, when we do things to the right, like David was saying, there's a right and there's a wrong. There is. It's undeniable, and it's within all of us. We absolutely know when we're doing something that feels right, feels good, it's right. And we know when we're doing something that technically may be legal but we know that it's wrong. There's a right and there's a wrong. And when we choose the right way, that is the path that is straight and is narrow. And the incredible thing is that it says right in the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, few will ever take that path. The many take the path that is wide, and it will surely lead to destruction. The path that is straight and narrow takes you back home. And that's what this is all about. And so we really do have a hero's journey. And the hero's journey is to rescue the Mary Magdalene within each of us and show the heavens what she truly is. She's beautiful, and she's everything. She's magical, and she's white, and she's pure. She's not Scarlet the harlot. And we have to rescue her and send her up. So it's all up and to the right. And it's a magnet, because we cast our net to the right. What does the letter R show you? The letter R, which is magnetism, is different from the letter N, the rising and the falling sun, because the letter R doesn't fall again, does it? It's up and to the right, and that's magnetism.
Does it make any difference whether you're right-handed or not? Is that part of it? Just wondered.
Well, what you are in the
What's
body,
right?
it connects back to the brain on the opposite side. So if you're right-handed, it's connecting back to the predominance of the left. But remember,
Oh, right, okay.
in our reality, so much of our physical reality is not ours, it's somebody else's. So probably 90% of the people who are right-handed were forced, either passively or
Not with
aggressively,
my left hand.
to be right-handed.
I do a lot of things with my left hand, but I actually just write with my right hand.
Yeah, because somebody probably forced you, or you saw people constantly writing with their right hand, and that everybody knows that was forced. That was a forced construct that kids were literally their backs were cracked with a wooden staff for writing left-handed. The left hand connects to the right hemisphere of the brain. So if you write right-handed, it's a connection to the left hemisphere of the brain, the 10% dime brain. That's where they want us.
I had an experience of that in primary school, where we were given fountain pens with the liquid ink inside, and I was told, "Oh, you'll have to write with your right hand because we haven't got any left-handed nibs on the pens." And it's like, well, this is not right. But the other thing you're saying about being in the present, well, the present is now, and now backwards is one, because we've won when we're now.
Yeah, it's the only place that you'll ever get presence, and this is all about this journey of the chrism oil and our sacred sex, the semen, is to create the Christmas tree, the tree of life within us, and adorn it alchemically with a gold star up top, which is of course portrayed by our seventh chakra, which rests just outside of the skull at the very top. That's the crown chakra, and it illuminates golden with a white light. And then when you look inside the tree of life, the pneumogastric nerve is now fully charged 1,000-fold. So it's full of lights. And then at the base of the tree is the gift of the gift, from the solar plexus down to the sacral plexus. Sacral plexus, the base of the tree, is the gift of gifts, is the baby Jesus. So Christmas comes 13 times a year, but all of the sacred gifts are only available to those who are nice and not naughty. And nice is just living in the moment, to like you said, not be distracted and take a side. That's what they want. They don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. They don't care about either
It
side.
doesn't matter whether you are or not, does it? It's all part of the
Exactly.
same game.
That's right. With none of this. one of the things that that David and I decoded in our podcast on my channel the other night with David as a special guest was where we came to in the podcast was this understanding that everything they do is not only upside down of what the truth is, but it's death. It's a promotion of death. So think about it. Every single aspect. So in the court system, what is the court system based upon? That you are a corpse from floating adrift on the sea, and they summons you to court because you can only summon the dead. So you're dead, and the whole point of our legal system is to keep you dead. When you're born in a hospital, what's the first thing they do? They kill you. They hide, they obfuscate the real you and replace it with a dead you. And then you go through your whole life wearing a mask, thinking that you're someone or something with a three-word capitalized name, and that's not who you are at all. And then what do they give us for food? Well, of course, you eat dead, rotting animal flesh to grow up big and strong, because that makes sense. Because that makes sense, right? To live, you have to eat death, and you have to murder to live. That makes no sense at all. And the very basis of all life on the planet is chlorophyll. And what is the miracle of chlorophyll? The golden sun producing white light that creates green plants. Gold, white, green. What's gold,
We don't
white,
even know
green?
what
The
they're
middle.
we don't even know what they're putting in those animals anyway, do we? If you know what I mean. They're called antibiotics, but we don't know what they are.
That's right. The meat, dairy, and egg industries do not have to divulge anything that they're doing to the consumer. Nothing. Nothing. So you have no idea whatsoever. But again, it's just the basic, like James, we were talking about on our podcast. I did podcast with
It's
James
great
as
to
the
hear you
featured
all
guest.
talking. It's great to hear you all talking, though.
And yeah, well, so it's like I said, thank you so much, Karen, because this is my family, David and James and Josh and you and Patricia. This is our family. And we just couldn't be happier because to now share this journey with other people that are just interested in the whole truth. It's a dream come true. It's magical. So, but they don't have to divulge anything, but it's a commonsensical thing. If you live in the moment, there's no sense in killing a sentient being to have life. That's the opposite of life. That's death. And so, James and I were talking about this, David and I were talking about this, that you poison your body for 50 years and then you die of a massive cataclysmic event, and people are no longer even surprised, or they don't even bat an eye about this if somebody dies of a massive coronary at 52. And they should, because the big thing is, how do we even live? How do we even live for 50, 60, 70 years when we poison ourselves from the moment that we're born? How long could we live if we detoxified?
It's written in the, if I may interject, it's written in the books and the Gospels about God, the Creator, the Lord. There says 120 years He limited the life of man up until the 120 years. I'm not saying this is all bang on, but I've done a bit of research there, fam, and there was the fathers and the brothers in the book. If you look at the names and the lineage, and I've covered a bit of this in previous casts, the hundreds of years that they lived for, not to mention the Sumerian kings lists and whatnot. But if I can just do my DJ selector bit, I'm getting off after this, fam. But it's been excellent. It's been amazing. It's truly. I was half asleep when I came on, and I'm buzzing. I'm charged to get down with the kids. And what I want to bring to you now then is somebody, I think it was Brother James, was saying about sale. He was saying something, sell, summons, charge, and I've got written down here. I've started with battery, I'm going down underneath battery, and then I'm going across after, you know, battery, I'm going horizontal and vertical from battery, and under battery I've put cell, when you have a prison cell, and then I've put the word sell as in to sell something, to past title, ownership, etc. And then I've got sold, S, old, sine wave old, if Josh was here as well, you know, and OLD, interesting in itself there. Then we have sail, because of sold sail, like the boat, SAIL, and that's linked to AISLE, which is an aisle. In the sail, you will walk down the aisle and you will look at the items and consider whether or not you will be purchasing them and tendering the cashier. Aisle, British Isles, all right, land masses now in aisles. Don't forget SALE then, not the SAIL, and the aisles for the sail, boats and shop. I'm going to go the other sail, from sail and aisle to sine wave alpha Lima Echo LE. So wow, looking at things in a whole new light. But sail rhymes with bail, just because SAIL, so we can go BAIL for bail, legal again, water. You know, we started with battery. Here we go, which is like Baal, Baal and the Baal worship of the negative death type stuff that Charlie says we was on about with the. It just all links up there. And then teller, you have a teller, ATM, cashier. Cashier, yes, and then going up to, it's back to battery. I've put prison, pry, and sun, and you have a battery of what, hens, as well as a battery needing to be charged. And it's just truly amazing where my brain goes when we just sit and listen and meditate on a few bits. And you know, oil, sail and oil. I've got church here, because oils are in churches, aren't they? And you know, you've got to go walk down the aisle. The bride and groom, linking back to what we said earlier. So, wow, it's been an excellent podcast. This, as I'm truly honoured and humbled to have been a part of it, and we're unlocking parts of each other and things that, you know, turning things on, turning the parts on. The key is in. We've gone deep, and we've gone that deep. It's going back inside and up to our heads. I yield.
Oh, thank you, David. David, are you just going to drop off, or do you want to say goodbye? Or
yeah, I'm going to leave you to it now. I need to go and get things ready and prepared, and yeah, I'm going to crack on and exit. Say ciao, Bella, ciao, Bello, and
lovely,
stay
David.
mellow.
Thank you so much, David. What a pleasure to have you part of this.
That was just poetry again, David. That really was. Before you
sorry,
go,
I'm a weirdo.
no,
you. I feel like
before
a
you
weirdo,
go, I'd like to add a couple more bits to this. We are vessels. A vessel can be one of two things. It can be something like a drinking vessel that contains a liquid. You can be a vessel on a sea, but whilst we are vessels and we're on a citizen ship, we also need to be shore, SHORE, because we need to be firmly on dry land, so we're in contact with Earth. Otherwise, we're just drifting. So there's another bit for you.
Oh, you've just made me go space now. When you said vessel, I thought blood. Cells in blood, cells on the film, cells in the battery, cells in the blood. If we look at the body through a microscope, we'll see what looks like to be a cataclysmic, crazy, random load of, you know, if you looked inside a vein and you had a look at the white, the red, the capillaries, let's go to someone who's got an infection, a blood infection, and you can see all the, you know, the chaos, but it's not chaos, it's the intricacy of the body that we poisoned for 50 years, healing itself. And I'm going to space. Wait there, I'm going to get out the vein in a minute. And in a space, wow, that's making me think of them, the film that shrunk themselves and went in the body. In a space, clue there. Wow, that's just come and slapped me. But the vessel, the blood, the craziness, if we stand back and look at the body in its entirety, as I look at Charlie, you, James, Patricia, Karen, Josh, anybody, we see that the skin is outside and, you know, it's encasing, and it looks quite harmonious now from intrinsic, you know, going inside and getting on an inception level. But then I went to the seas of space, and the earth is classed in some scriptures and bits and bobs and antiquities as a vessel in space, and, you know, a blood vessel, a vessel space, liquid again, C's. So this is incredible what's happening. You're just lighting me up tonight. Thank you. And I'm lighting you up. Yeah.
And David, let me quickly interject this to you before you go, because you mentioned battery, right? Well, the battery is noted because it has two poles. There is a positive and a negative. And this is such a perfect segue about how everything is upside down and how everything we do is death. And of course, our food, you murder and eat death to get strong and healthy and to live. It makes no sense. Well, we're charging our batteries electrically. Sorry, didn't we just say that a battery collects energy and that it has two poles? Well, what has two poles? Magnetism, and magnetism has scalar waves, which are eternal. So why would we be charging a battery collecting electrical energy? What do we know about electrical energy? It's temporal. So it means that when you call it, it comes, uses itself, expends itself in the outward orgasm, the outward ejaculation. It ejaculates its energy all over the car to get it to function for a little bit, then it dies. And then you have to either recharge it or get a new one. Got to get a new one. Whereas if the battery, which is tied to two poles, which is magnetism, and it was charged magnetically, wouldn't that continue to just feed off of itself and go eternally? No interruptions.
That's what Tesla did this with the wireless. Allegedly, I wasn't alive then, but I found evidence to say that there was, yes, it could. And we live in you've made me think of a salt and battery. I missed that. How could I do that? Man of law, assault and battery. Ooh, yes, you've just connected that one up. And I'm going to have to exit. We'll be here all night. I've really got to go.
Okay.
This is too sad. But we'll be back for more if I'm allowed. Thank you, and lots of love to all. Patricia, even to you, my love.
Love you, David.
Thank you, David.
Thank you all.
David, thank you.
Thanks for speaking.
Yeah, blessings to all. Much love and light, and we'll see you soon, Button Moon. All right, bless you. Thank you. Much love.
Bye, darling.
Ciao for now. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Oh, can I say something? Can I say
bet.
something as well? In my journey of things, very often the energy is coming in. And you need to get the energy to go out. And that's like the field and the magnet and the whole thing. But all the energy is coming in and going down. I mean, you need to it's like reverse it and get it to come up and out. But if you don't know who you are and you believe you're all these other things that have been drummed into you, you're never going to get there, are you?
Yeah, and do you see the perfect allegory of what Santos and I were talking about with the nuclear power and the nuclear power myth? So the nuclear power plants, which are so clean and quiet, you can have them in residential neighborhoods, completely safe, because the process is kept safely within, and it's clean, quiet, eternal energy. And it's done the right way.
You've got to know what it is, haven't you, in the first place? And that's and this whole thing is about the journey to yourself.
It is.
Can I just say though, we have been going for 2.5 hours now. Just to let you know, because people can only listen for so long, can't they? And anyway, they always want more afterwards. I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave the bit where you actually disappear, because it got everybody right to, and then we just all sort of sat there for a few seconds going, oh. Because you were taking on the journey up and you were there and it was just like the very thing. Oh my goodness. And then quiet. Charlie'd gone. Right at the pinnacle. But I've really enjoyed that. I don't know if Patricia wants to say anything. Say something before we go, because I can't just end it. But I think we should sort of wrap up now. And anyway, we've all got to put this on our channels, haven't we?
Yeah.
There is always one exception to the rule with everything. Now, particularly in the UK at the moment, there will be people who are going to the polls and they will be charging by putting their X in the box. But the only thing that is going to get crossed is going to be themselves. Whether they vote for a red party or a blue party, that is all illusion. all this politics, because poly is many and ticks are parasites, and that is this illusory three-dimensional world. So that's the one pole you don't want to go to, the polling station.
It's a pilot.
Yeah, that's it. It's all a play on
It
words.
feels really strange saying this, but I used to be, well, because it's drum, you don't know, you only know the stories you're told, but I was sort of proud to vote. Yes, I voted because our family fought for the right for us to do this. And you think that gives you freedom. And it's the very last thing, because very quickly, but because it's not what Charlie's talking about. But, when you think about it, they say, well, if you believe them, 40% of the people voted and half of those didn't vote for who was in. So we've got all this through about 20% of the vote. Well, it wasn't working in the first place then, was it? We need to wake up and realise that if about 80% of the people never vote for the ones that are in, then we already know something's not right.
Well, this is the definition of insanity, isn't it? I mean, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result, well, all you're going to get is the same result. No matter who you vote for, you're just going to get more homeless, more poverty, more unemployment, more misery.
Because they really think by voting for a different party, like I did, that it's going to make a difference. But I did realise a long time ago, just at the point, say, when a party looks like they could be doing something, then we get a general election, and the next lot then undo what they've done. So it's just like a seesaw, and nothing ever gets sorted out, nothing ever changes. And I realised that a long time ago.
Yeah, that is exactly how it is.
But like,
and James, let me just quickly interject here. James, again, you talk about the definition of insanity. But that's everywhere. It's where David and I came to on our podcast. Is this just, again, what is the definition of insanity? Forced breeding, caging, torturing, and then mutilating living sentient beings to then eat their dead, rotting flesh so that we can have life. That's insanity. And a legal system that is based upon you as a corporation, a corpse, which is dead, and you're summoned to participate in a system where you're dead. That's insanity. And the car battery, or a battery, where we use a magnetic storage device electrically. Insanity. Our medicine is insanity.
Charlie, there's something else that's going on. Look at where we are, where we're supposed to be. Yeah, we're having this hangout. I can't see you. There's no wires, and we can talk to each other without any time delay. Whatever they've got, technology-wise, whatever we've had, I mean, we don't know half of it. I mean,
that's right.
There's no way they put a cable underneath the sea to America. It would have taken years.
No, this is the ether. This is Santos teaches this. This is how we're communicating in the moment. I have no idea what you're going to say next. And all the way from Mexico to England, which they're telling us is a great long distance, and yet it's happening instantaneously. This is not man-made technology.
Yeah, even though you're 5 hours behind me or 6 hours behind me, still we're in the same time, but we're not.
Of course, right? Does that what you just said? Does that not irrevocably destroy the myth of linear time? Of course it does. 6 hours apart, but we're contacting one another in the moment. And it also destroys the speed of light. There is no speed of light. It's not racing around. It's the ether. It's here. There's no speed. It's instantaneous. Again, everything that they've sold us isn't out there, is a nuclear orgasm.
I mean, like phones and televisions and computers. I mean, when you really think about it, these things actually are quite amazing, that I've got pictures and I can see you all on my screen. Yeah, you're not here, and the machine's doing it and reflecting back, hopefully, what we all are. Just, I mean, like, it's just beyond who we are, and that's what I'm seeing with that other footage. Like, some of the things they've got are just well beyond them. They can't have it, and yet they've got it, and yet they look. Anyway, we could go on and on and on, but do you think we should end now?
Sure, but I'll end with this.
Well, we're not ending, are we? Though it's only it's a pause button.
That's right. This notion that everyone just needs to understand is that what exists is God's creation, and it is perfect, and it is eternal, and they've got cables attached to it, and they've got meters attached to it, because they're transmitting it to us electrically instead of magnetically. And so everything is temporal, temporary, and can be
I think that's
monitored
one of the
and
saddest
charged.
bits. It's not though that people don't realise that they're magnetical and we've got electrical pulses and all these kind of things. I think that's really sad that nearly most people just don't have a clue about all that. And it's so important. All of it's important. But do you understand what I mean? We're not educated. I don't know. We're just funneled.
That's right. It's exactly right. And if we did nothing more than stop going to school and start looking up at the night sky, it's all there. Everything in the night sky is is a book. It's our teachings. It's our sacred teachings. And they're the same things that are inside of us. They're the same things that are in the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Vedas, the Buddha Sutras, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Quran. It's all the same story because it was all decoded from the night sky. And the night sky teaches one thing and one thing only, and that's human physiology. We are the creation of
It's really
creation.
strange, Charlie. Everything that's happening is always pushing us outer, never inner. Yeah, everything else seems to be for the inner side, but we're pushed to the outer side, and that's where. Because I always ask this question to people: do you live inside out or outside in? You probably need a balance, really. But I would have to say I'm an inside living. I live on the inside out. A lot of people live on the outside in, so it's the car, it's all these other things that make them happy. But you really should be living quite a much.
That's right. That's virtually everyone. And so what kind of sex should you be happening? Could we not all agree, even at this beginning point, if you're hearing sacred sex for the first time, could we not agree that our semen is our essence? If we can just simply agree at this beginning point to understand that our semen is our essence, then what are we doing ejaculating it outwards?
Also,
That
intimacy wasn't a word. I know that's like different to what you were saying, but intimacy gets you there, and that's a big part of love. And most people don't even know what it is.
That's right. That's right. And the sacred sexual process, it puts you so in love with your partner that there's nothing that could break you apart. There's nothing. And yet we live in a world where people get married so that they can have a divorce. The
With
answers do not lie out there, folks. They lie within you.
yourself, yeah. And if you
Yep.
can't help yourself, how are you going to help anyone else?
You
But
can't. You're in a plane that's got a problem. Put the oxygen mask on first, and then you help everybody else.
yes, Charlie. Patricia, is there anything you want to say as we're finishing? Willow.
I'm here. Sorry, I was just making a drink. Yeah, it's been quite interesting. I was thinking about when you were saying about in the supermarket, James, about the aisles. Well, whoever was saying it, I can't remember now. Sorry. You all sound the same when you're talking.
I think it was David.
It's like when you get married, the bride walks up the aisle, and the man's looking down the aisle to look at the merchandise. Like, are they both? Well, anyway, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not just that. In some countries, they still give a wage to get married, don't they? Like they buy the wife. In some cultures.
Well, yeah, they're playing on the fact that it's Mary Magdalene walking up the aisle. It's Mary Magdalene walking up the spine towards man, God, looking down upon, because God is upon high, and we've got Mary trapped down in our bowels. And so this is that alchemical marriage. That's why the bride walks up the aisle to the groom. That's why they call it walking up. It's not level. They're walking up. They're climbing a ladder. They're climbing Jacob's ladder. that's what it is.
They have
And
steps at the
the
altar,
aisle.
don't they, as well? At the altar,
Yeah.
there's usually steps. Patricia,
Yep.
though, Patricia, do you want to finish? And then, because we'd be better, because we could be here for another 3 hours.
Yes, all right then. Yeah, it's been fascinating as always. Like I said before, but sometimes it goes over my head, but then sometimes I sort of pick little bits out and I think, oh yeah, that's quite interesting, and go with it. So thank you, Charles, and thank you, James, and thank you, Karen, as always. And I love you all. And thank you everybody for listening and watching. I love you all.
Love you, Patricia.
Love you, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you. James, you
Hi,
want to say
Patricia.
anything? James, you want to say anything?
Yeah, this has been absolutely wonderful. Patricia touched on a wonderful word there, merchandise. Dice. Well, you've got merchant and dice. That's dicing with death. That's the wrong dice. What we want is a pair of dice,
That's right.
paradise. That's what we're actually looking for, and that's within. There are so many people out there that are externally controlled, and they're looking outwards for everything, whether it be a new car, bigger house, or whatever. That's not going to bring them any satisfaction or any true wealth. That's just the temporary wealth just within this lifetime. But once the physical body is gone, that's not going to be much good to them. As Tutankhamun, I think, found out, you can't take it with you.
Even if they tried to.
Yeah.
Thank you, James. Thank you, James.
Okay.
Charlie,
Thank you.
thank you. Charlie?
Again, thank you to everyone, and thank you especially to you, Karen, for putting this together and for just playing such an important role and part in my life. I appreciate it so much because, again, yourself and Patricia and Josh and Santos and James and David, this is my family. There's family we're born with, and then there's family that we find and we live with, and this is our family, and we couldn't be happier to have found all of you. This is very special. I think this was a very, very special show today. I think there was a very powerful energy to it, and I thank you so much, Karen.
Oh, and thank you for doing the conclusion of Crucifixion as well. But not just that, we're all like, I suppose, James and David and Josh are very similar, but we're all different and we all bring different bits. That's what it's about, isn't it? But understanding it and then just being slightly different and bringing different parts in. We all play our part, don't we?
It's so true, and that's the sacredness of the individual. Break again. You do James has done it. Josh does it. It's the breakdown of the word individual and what it tells you in plain sight in the word individual.
They
It's
don't
divine.
realise this is like school again, isn't it? Where we're all the little children and you've all got your bits to say. And like David liked things that you said, like things that James said, thought about things a bit differently. It's about us coming together as with different people, but coming together with bits of our knowledge and explaining it. And then someone else goes, oh, they can see it even easier.
Yeah, as one. This whole process is Adam
Without
atum.
arguing. Without arguing and without these silly old egos.
Yeah, I don't sense the ego amongst anybody here. It's beautiful.
Well, takes one to know one, Charlie, then.
Thank you. It's like I said, to gravitate towards James and yourself and Patricia and David and Josh and Santos it does say something about Colleen and I and the work we're doing. And to let everybody know, on our site, we're close. We're getting closer to it, and we're going to be doing an entire series on Freak Sense TV of this sacred sex and this sacred task of raising Mary Magdalene and the dance and the marriage. So it's really beautiful.
Can't wait, Charlie. Can I just say that I'd like to say thank you very much to Josh, who's left, to David, who's left, to our Patricia, Willow, to James, and of course Charlie, who's real. This hangout happened because Charlie wanted to talk, and now we've all talked. So Yeah, thank you, everybody. If we just say goodbye, but we'll say goodbye after we, I've pressed the button to stop the recording. But hopefully everybody's really enjoyed that and understood more about it all. And yeah, thanks for everybody for all their input. So it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening from us. Bye, everybody. Mwah. Oh, love Charlie, love Patricia, and love James.